on list 19 was withdrawn, so we can pop that over to list 18 if you want to. Okay.
Okay, are we streaming? Are we good? Yes. Okay, this is a voting session, Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs. We are working on voting list number 18, except SB 415, that is now shifted to voting list 19. Senator Simonier, any comments on the 2, 4, 6 bills on 18? Okay. Is there a motion to adopt in toto consent on 18? It's been moved, it's been seconded. Debate. It's been in front of us to adopt all of these local bills without amendments. Not controversial. Any question, debate on that? Would anybody wish to be recorded in the opposition? Seeing none, it is a 9-0, and Lamb and Ellis absent. Okay, that was very efficient. Okay, we are now moving to list 19 with 115 added.
415.
415.
Okay. Do you want to?
You can start, and then we'll go to you.
Okay. Senate Bill 222, Baltimore City Board of License Commissioners, licensee hours of operation. This emergency bill requires certain licensed establishments located in a specified geographical area of Baltimore City, commonly known as the block, to close by 10 p.m. There is one amendment in your packet for alcoholic beverages. And there's one amendment from Senator Ferguson. And this amendment authorizes specified licensees to operate within the hours of the license if the licensee adopts a security plan approved by the board in consultation with the Baltimore Police Department, requires an updated security plan to be submitted with the license renewal application, provides for the contents of the security plan, requires certain licensees to install an external video surveillance system on the licensed premises and provide access to video to the Baltimore Police Department, and also requires the authority to enter into a contract with the Baltimore Police Department to hire 2 dedicated officers to patrol the specified areas on Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m.
Let's put it before us. Is there a motion? It's been moved, it's been seconded. Can I assume we can move that amendment with the same people? We're on the amendment. Senator Washington.
I'm sure all of you have been following this in a number of venues. The bill before us now, as amended, is a negotiation. It's not unusual in Baltimore City for there to be a number of provisions and memorandums of understanding related to liquor establishments. This is extending that practice to this this block of activity. So I ask for your favorable report. Thanks.
Okay, any objection to adopting the First Amendment in your packet on 222? Seeing no objection, that amendment is adopted. So the bill 222 as amended is before you. Is there any debate? Seeing none, would anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Seeing none, it'll go down as 9-0, Lamb, Ellis, absent. Next.
Senate Bill 415, Garrett County Alcoholic Beverages Act of 2022. This bill establishes a barbershop and beauty salon beer and wine license in Garrett County. The bill also increases the number of beer festival licenses, beer and wine festival licenses, and wine festival licenses that the Garrett County Board of License Commissioners may issue per year as specified. The bill also authorizes each festival may last up to 3 consecutive days as specified. There's one amendment in your packet on page 9, and this amendment modifies the barbershop and beauty salon beer and wine license to increase the size of wine the serving for the size of wine from 5 ounces to 6 ounces, and strikes certain fee issuance language and substitutes new language.
It's been moved and seconded. Any objection to adopt, I'll assume the same move-ons or moving the Edwards amendment. Seeing no objection, it's adopted. So 415 as amended is before the body. Seeing no discussion, would anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Seeing none, it will pass 9-0 with the two same absence. For those of you watching on YouTube, these are local liquor bills, not very controversial. There are a few we might get to later that may be. That's why we're moving fairly rapidly, and we have 28 bills on our list today. Okay, 415 will be reported to the floor. Next.
Senate Bill 430, Baltimore City alcoholic beverage licenses, transfer. This bill authorizes the transfer of one Class A beer and light wine license issued for a property in Baltimore City bounded by West Eager Street, Morton Street, Brexton Street, and Cathedral Street to a property bounded by East Chase Street, North Lovegrove Street, East Eager Street, and North Charles Street. There is one amendment in your packet on page 10 from Senator Hayes. And this amendment authorizes the board to waive the distance restrictions for licensees in the bounded area, and it changes another license to a beer, wine, and liquor license.
But it does mention 33rd Avenue. It's got every other street in Baltimore, I think, listed, but Vice Chair.
Question for council. The abbreviated distance from houses of worship or schools, is there precedent for that elsewhere? Thank you, just checking. I'm just making sure the numbers are the same. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, because Anne Arundel County is not as prescriptive in state code, Anne Arundel County will give exceptions to this issue as a regular routine issue in Anne Arundel County. So I don't think it's a big issue statewide.
Okay. Simon Ayer moves it favorable, seconded by Senator Washington. And the amendment, there was an amendment, yes. I assume will be made by the same two. Any objection to adopting the amendment? Seeing none, Senate Bill 430 as amended. Discussion. Seeing none, I will record everyone in the affirmative. That will make it 10-0. Senator Lamb absent. Next, please.
Okay. Senate Bill 499, Anne Arundel County Alcoholic Beverages Board of License Commissioners Term Limits. Just a second. So this bill, as introduced, prohibits any member of the Anne Arundel County Board of License Commissioners from serving more than 4 consecutive terms. Bill also requires the term of the member initially appointed by the governor to the board in 2021 to expire on April 30th, 2024. There are 2 amendments in your bill packet. The first is on page 13. This amendment creates a commercial bingo license that authorizes the license holder, if they're a commercial bingo establishment, to sell beer, wine, and liquor for on-premises consumption in accordance with the license. There's also an amendment on page 15 of the voting packet making the bill an emergency measure.
We do have a letter.
Besides the sponsor problem, it's all good.
Okay. We'll overlook certain things. We're going to assume that is a motion in favor, and other Anne Arundel County seconds the bill. And adopting the amendment, any objection? Seeing none, the bill is amended. 499. Seeing no lights on, I will assume, unless corrected, 10-0 with Senator Lamb absent. We were now going to, that was 499. Let's do 606. No, let's stop. You need to get out of here, right?
Well, 606 we want to hold anyway, because they're doing different amendments.
Okay, 606 is a hold. Do you want to take 648, or do you want to come back to it later tonight?
You know what, I got 5 more minutes. If you want to go through my bills, we can do it.
Okay, we'll do that. So 606 is a hold. We are going down to 648.
Right. 648, Frederick County Alcoholic Beverages Act of 2022. This bill makes several changes to alcoholic beverages licenses provisions in Frederick County, including repealing redundant alcohol awareness training requirements for certain licenses, repealing crowd control training requirements for a specified license, modifying residency requirements for various license applications as specified, repealing specific petition of support requirements, specifying how certain notice requirements may be fulfilled by the Frederick County Board of License Commissioners, altering a quota for certain Class A licenses, altering the renewal period for annual licenses, and altering the dates by which the board may issue certain licenses. The bill also specifies that certain license application documents are subject to state requirements under the Public Information Act. There was an amendment, but Senator Young has withdrawn that amendment, so the bill stands.
Senator Simon Ayer moves the bill. Senator Riley seconds the motion. There are no amendments. Any objection to the bill? Debate. If not, I will record it as 10-0, 1 absent. That is Senate Bill 648. Ms. Goodman, keep going. You've got one more, I think, or not?
2 more. Senate Bill 757, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages, 40th Alcoholic Beverage District. The bill authorizes the board to issue a Class BD7 license in the 700 block of Washington Boulevard if average daily receipts from the sale of food are at least 65% of the applicant's total receipts, the applicant executes a memorandum of understanding with a community association, the applicant does not create a separate packaged goods department, alcoholic beverages are served to patrons seated at tables, and alcoholic beverages are served only with meals to patrons provided with outdoor table service. The bill additionally authorizes the board to issue a Class BD7 license in the 300 block of North Charles Street to an establishment that has a minimum capital investment, not including the cost of land and buildings, of $50,000 for the establishment's facilities. In addition, the bill alters specified geographical areas in the 40th Alcoholic Beverages District where there's a general prohibition against selling alcoholic beverages between 10 a.m. or after 10 p.m. There is an amendment from Senator Hayes in your packet, and all it does is make this an emergency bill.
Senator, you want to move it? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any objection to the amendment making an emergency? Seeing none, that is adopted. We have the bill before us, 757, as amended. Discussion. Okay, seeing none, we will record it as 10-0-1. 757 will pass. And final one from
Last
Ms.
one.
Goodman.
Senate Bill 771, Baltimore City, 46th District Alcoholic Beverage Licenses. This bill alters the hours of sale and the annual license fee relating to a public market license in Baltimore City. The bill also authorizes the Baltimore City Board of License Commissioners to waive the general distance requirements for an application to transfer an alcoholic beverages license in the area bounded by Fagley Street, Guff Street, Grundy Street, and Chesil Place. In addition, the bill extends the expiration date of the Class B 7-day beer and wine license issued for a premises located in a specified geographic area in the 46th Alcoholic Beverages District as specified. There are 2 amendments in your packet from Senator Ferguson. The first extends the time for a specific business in Pigtown who qualified for a license but couldn't activate it because of COVID issues, and it allows them to activate the license at a later time. And then it alters the leasable market space that vendors who sell alcoholic beverages from 20% to 25%.
It's been moved and seconded, favorable. Any objection to adopting the amendments? Seeing none, they are adopted. We're looking at 771 as amended. Discussion? Discussion, seeing none. Bless you. Anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Seeing none, that'll go as 10-0-1. And, yeah.
I just wanted to thank Stacy. She's done a great job. There was a couple issues that we had to deal with, and We got them worked out before here.
Back, she has to do a quick earn that was time restricted, so she'll be back. We have some other education bills that we will be discussing.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
staff contacted me. One of the bills we had on the consent calendar, we missed an amendment. We were supposed to have on SB 482. It's pretty simple. I don't know how you want to handle that. If you want to, basically, the amendment would just, it has about alcohol awareness training. It's kind of at your discretion how you want to do it.
says support as amended in the letter from the delegation. Let's just get it right. Is there any objection to reconsidering this bill? Okay, well, we don't have the amendment, so,
Sure. So what the amendment does, it says the board may determine the minimum number of employees from each outlet in the resort complex that must complete the alcohol awareness training required under this subsection. And then it changes $6,000 to $4,000. That should be left at $6,000.
how do we want to handle this?
Do you have a amendment number for that?
383729/1.
383729/1.
But you're saying the amendment's wrong, too,
Well, the last line of the amendment,
the dollar number.
the very, yeah, that was something that came from the House delegation that the senators wanted to leave it at that 6,000 level because we have funding issues with the liquor board, so. But the Hartford senators agreed to leave that 6,000.
That's in the bill currently. What's in the bill currently?
Yes, the 6. But if you say we've passed that with amendment, that's all on that one page there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's before us, we'll come back to it, we'll get it
Okay,
right,
thanks.
so we know what we're doing.
And that was 481, correct?
482.
It's 482, okay. That asked.
Okay, so the status is it's before us and open to amendment. And we'll get the amendment right. Stacy will be back in a little bit, just next time we have a break, talk to her. Okay, let's go back to Ms. Foxworth. I think your next did we do 606 as a hold?
6:45.
We're still on 19. We jumped around a little bit, so we're going to go to 645, Ms. Foxworth.
Senate Bill 645, Wacomico County Alcoholic Beverages Dinner Theater License. This bill establishes a Class B DT Dinner Theater Beer, Wine, and Liquor License in Wacomico County and authorizes a license holder to sell on the premises at locations that provide live music and entertainment, open by reservation only, and have a dining room that can accommodate at least 80 people. The bill establishes the cost of the fee and establishes limitations on the time that the license can be used. There are amendments sponsored by Senator Carrozza that change the time that the license can be used and authorizes a license to be used only if food is provided at the function.
Okay. Let's put the bill before us. It's been moved, it's been seconded. Any objection to the Carrozza amendment on page 19? Seeing no objection, that's adopted. The bill's as amended. We good? Okay, anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Seeing not, it is 11-0, and the bill passes. 646, Ms. Foxworth.
Senate Bill 646, Wacomico County Alcoholic Beverages, Class BBF Banquet Facility License. This bill establishes a Class BBF Banquet Facility Beer, Wine, and Liquor License in Wacomico County and authorizes the license holder to sell in banquet facilities that have a dining room and that can prepare and serve for 100 people for full course meals and have bathroom facilities. The license is operational Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m., on Sunday from 10 a.m. to midnight. There are amendments sponsored by Senator Carrozza, which remove the requirement for the facility to be able to prepare meals for 100 people.
Talk first, do you have letters from Lower Shore? Okay, they aren't in this file. Okay. It's been moved, Senator Carrozza, seconded, Senator Riley. Any objection to the Carrozza amendment on 20? Senator?
Clarify this one, and is the 80, not the 100. You just mentioned 100. The 100 was for the last bill. This one would be, okay. Hold on, just 640. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. 640, never mind.
So, 646 as amended with a two-word amendment. Any objection? Seeing none, 646 will go to the floor with a favorable 11-0 vote. Okay, that takes care of 17 and 18 minus the one Hartford County bill. We'll come back to tomorrow or later today. 18, 19. Yeah, well, you know, dream on, my friend, as they say. Okay. We'll start working down the list. We might have to jump around for a number of reasons, but we'll start. We'll start with 14.
Senate Bill 14, Sustainable Maryland Program Fund Establishment. This bill establishes the Sustainable Maryland Program Fund administered by the University of Maryland Environmental Finance Center, subject to specified requirements. The purpose of the fund is to expand and enhance Sustainable Maryland's promotion and support of communities in the state in their effort to realize environmental, economic, and social sustainability. The governor must include an appropriation of $750,000 annually to the fund beginning in fiscal 2024. There are no amendments.
What are some, I probably could be able to find it. What are some of the uses for this fund? Oh, okay. I see it on page 3. Okay. Is there a motion on this bill 14? Vice Chair has moved favorable. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Patterson. Okay, no amendments. Discussion on the bill? Senator.
The fiscal note says there's a $750,000 impact on our state budget. Any, does this have to be run by budget and tax, or are we okay?
It has already been run by budget and tax.
We have been keeping a running list, and there must be 5 to 10 or 12 bills. They've gotten back to us on some, they have not gotten back to us on others, and that's why they're sitting there. Not a surprise, the sponsor of the bill is on budget and tax. Those responses sometimes come back a lot quicker than for other members not on budget and tax. Further discussion on 14. Anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? It'll be recorded 11-0, go to the floor as such. We will go to 64. We're going to skip Oh, no, I'm sorry, we don't have to skip 60. I'm looking at initials and the committee councils. Ms. Foxworth, we don't have to, please.
Senate Bill 46, Housing Development and Neighborhood Revitalization Programs, Notice and Application Requirements. This bill requires the Department of Housing and Community Development and the Community Development Administration to notify the General Assembly delegation where a proposed development project is located within 14 days after project approval, and for low-income specific tax credits within 14 days after receiving an application. The bill requires applicants who will use DHCD funds for development projects to also send notification to the General Assembly delegation 30 days before applying for the program, and to include delegation information in the application. The bill applies to rental housing program projects, partnership rental housing program projects, Bernie program projects, community legacy projects, and the neighborhood business development program. There are sponsor amendments that are on page 6, 5, or 6. Let's go with 4. Page 4 of your packet, and they require DHC, they kind of pare down the notification by requiring Department of Housing and Community Development to notify the General Assembly delegation in the same way that they notify cities and municipalities of these proposals under current law. And it adds a requirement to notify only to partnership rental housing, because that does not exist in current law.
That replace the existing, the rest of,
So partnership rental housing is the only one that's postured differently, but the other programs, the notice requirement will be met in the same way that they notify cities and counties, that they
So-
notify local gov.
the 14 days, the 7 days, that's all
That's
struck.
gone, that's gone.
Okay. Let's get it before us first. It's been moved, it's been seconded. The amendment essentially strikes the very specifics of the bill with mandated dates, requirements of notification, and aligns it with other notifications to the city or municipality. Any objection to adopting the sponsor amendment? Okay, then we have before us SB 46 as amended. Discussion. Please.
Thank you, sir. So is there a time frame for the notice if it took out? So what would happen with the notice?
No, so there isn't a particular time frame. DHCD informed me that they like to notify within 25 days, the cities and municipalities, but there aren't like prescriptive guidelines placed under the amendments.
Okay, thank you.
Let me just follow up with the good senators. It's 25 days from when? From,
When the application is received.
okay. I don't know who I had first, Senator Washington, then Senator Cardoza, or vice versa, whatever.
So again, I was happy to see the amendments. You said something about the who's already provided this notice? And so they would just,
The majority of programs that I listed, Community Legacy, Partnership, Rental Housing, Bernie, and these are projects all throughout the state with the exception of the Bernie Fund. The only one that's different is Partnership Rental Housing, because they don't have a current notification requirement in law, because most of the Partnership Rental Housing projects come from the localities. So that would be adding that requirement to Partnership Rental Housing, which is different from, which establishes an additional requirement. But for the other programs, they already have notice there.
does it also add notice to the municipalities and the counties? Does the amendment do that as well? Because yeah.
So for
We're gonna do
partnership,
that,
so for partnership rental housing, no, because my understanding was that they would know already, but we can clarify that, to put that in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and I think I'm just trying to come up to speed. As I recall, we considered this bill last year and did not move it. This year, it's come in, and now there are these amendments. I'm trying to figure out if the amendments address the concerns of the Community Development Network of Maryland, and to the extent that they do. And I didn't know if that was the same for the Disability Rights Maryland.
So I haven't heard from Disability Rights Maryland, but I did get word that Community Development Network signed off on the amendments. But I think the disability rights perspective was that placing the timeline may hinder projects, and so the amendments may address that because it gets rid of that, but I haven't, like I said, I haven't heard anything specific to them about their concerns being alleviated.
So if you had to bottom line the amendments as far as addressing their concerns, it was more on timelines? or-
Right, right. So my understanding was that they felt that the pre-approval, or not necessarily pre-approval, but notifying before they submitted an application, right? Because there was, under the current bill, you had to notify 30 days before submitting an application, that would create an arbitrary burden, an additional burden on applicants for, fair housing and such. And so now the posture of the amendments is that timeline isn't placed on DHCD anymore, or on the applicant for that matter.
Yeah, they will receive the same notice that the head of the political subdivision gets, or their legislative body. So
Yep,
their mayor, county executive, and the head of their county council or commissioners.
right,
Our colleagues will get the same notice at the same time.
right.
I can't tell you whether people who raise concerns have an issue or not, or if they're happy. This is the posture of the bill before us. Last year's bill was rejected. It was too strong. The bills that came in, there were numbers of concerns about. This has been ratcheted back to something that's comparable to other notifications. That's where
Right.
we are. Okay, further discussion? Seeing none. The bill as amended, would anybody wish to be recorded in negative? Seeing not, it'll go to the floor 11-0. 64.
Senate Bill 64, Beach Erosion Control District, state and city-owned structures. This bill exempts the repair, renovation, reconstruction, or expansion of an existing structure owned by the state or the mayor and city council of Ocean City from an existing prohibition against land clearing, construction activity, or the construction or placement of permanent structures within the Beach Erosion Control District, provided the project does not result in any significant permanent environmental damage to the district as determined by the Department of Natural Resources. A reconstruction or expansion project carried out under the exemption must comply with specified siting and design criteria. There are amendments in your packet offered by the bill's sponsor. Those amendments appear on pages 20 and 21 of the voting packet. The amendment places further limitations on projects that may occur under the bill. Specifically, the amendments require the project to be approved by the mayor and city council of Ocean City, and specify that an expansion project may not result in any increase in height above the existing structure or extend beyond any existing duly recorded property or franchise boundary. Additionally, if no existing franchise boundary exists, the expansion must be necessary to bring the structure into compliance with the American with Disabilities Act or Ocean City's fire prevention standards.
Okay. We need to put something in before us. Is there a motion? It's been moved by Senator Riley. Is there a second? Second, okay. I assume, Senator Croce, you want to move your amendments? So they are moved. Is there a second? So be it second. Did you want to speak, Senator Croce?
To let my colleagues know, this has been worked with the Town of Ocean City, with the Department of Natural Resources. The amendments were meant to obviously narrow and limit even more so. And the sense of urgency with the bill is that trying to move ahead with the ADA improvements for the Ocean City Life Saving Museum.
Senator?
Question for the bill sponsor. So what's the effective date of your bill? You want to make it an emergency bill? If it's so important. Just a thought. Thank
No.
you.
With the construction, I mean, thank you for that, but if we can get this, we'll be okay. Thanks.
Okay, as amended, Senate Bill 64 is before us. Any debate, discussion? Seeing none, seeing no red lights, I will assume this 11-0 in favor. It'll go to the floor. 64. Now, 72.
Senate Bill 72, Minority Participation in the Alcoholic Beverages Industry Study. This bill requires the Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs, in consultation with specified entities, to conduct a study of the participation of minority-owned businesses in the alcoholic beverages industry in the state. The Office of the Attorney General and the Maryland Department of Transportation must provide staff for the study. The Governor's Office of Small Minority and Women Business Affairs must report its findings and recommendations to the Governor and the General Assembly by January 1st, 2023. There are no amendments.
It's moved, it's been seconded. The bill is before us. Discussion. Senator Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know during the hearing I raised the issue of a disparity study specifically, but it's my understanding by council that there is could you explain that there are disparity studies happening next year?
Yeah, so, and that's, it's explained a little bit in the fiscal note that actually the agencies sort of are assuming, right now, the state is in the process of doing its general disparity study, which it's required to do at a certain interval. I think it's every 4 or 5 years, which basically looks at minority participation in different sectors and industries for the purpose of determining whether the state should continue to operate the Minority Business Enterprise Program. So the assumption that the agencies are making in the fiscal note is that this study of the alcoholic beverages industry would sort of be rolled into that disparity study. That's a big study. They hire, they contract that work out to researchers to do it. But on the basis of that study, once you have that study and that information, then the state is authorized to take sort of actions to affirmatively assist minority-owned businesses in whatever industries are covered by the study.
So, Mr. Chair, so my question is it possible to just add language to this bill that says specifically that this issue of procurement of alcohol in the casinos specifically is a subject? Because it seems to me that was part of it, was pulling out, I mean, because in construction and all that, it's set, but it seemed like the specific issue is the liquor distribution, procurement of alcohol. So I don't know.
Madam Counsel, are categories like construction, are some categories assumed, and we have to be clear to add certain categories
Yeah.
in the study?
Yeah, and because and again, it talks about it a little bit in the fiscal note, but right now, the statewide study does not, it goes by these codes, which include things like commodities, supplies, and equipment. So I think part of the intent of this bill is to call out alcohol specifically as sort of a subcategory within that. I'd be a little bit, cautious about narrowing the language too much around participation in contracts with casinos, for example, because my understanding of the way these studies work, it's bigger picture than that. It looks sort of more broadly at participation in the industry, and then rather than kind of narrowly focusing on just participation in contracts, if that makes sense.
Be on just procurement of, beverages or alcoholic beverages.
So again, I think you want to be a little bit cautious about saying procurement of, because my understanding of the way, and I have looked at how these studies have been
Yeah.
sort of set up in other bills, and it's always sort of it always directs the study to look at participation in the industry.
So is there such a thing as alcohol industry? So looking at I guess here would be looking, here would be distribution of MTA contracts awarded by industry group. And I can't tell if alcohol or beverages is considered an industry group. And if it isn't, it probably should be.
Well, and I think that's what the language of the bill is getting at, that the study shall include historical and current levels of participation in the manufacturing, distribution, and retail sales, tiers of the alcoholic beverages industry, levels of market activity.
Put your mic on.
This is I just want to specifically make sure that what we need to know, so that if we do need to make some policy decisions in the future, is a part of this study. Because I'm looking at what the agencies they're looking at is SHA. I guess they do a number of agencies, so I don't know what contracts awarded by a particular agency would apply to this issue. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sorry.
That's fine. I am a little slight concerned about it getting lost in the, with all the agency things and everything else in this one little area that we're looking at. I don't want to just throw it out there without some guiding posters, if you will, so that it wouldn't totally get lost. Besides, I don't have any idea specifically when the department is going to launch that one. That may be 2 years down the road. So I would rather we didn't do that. I was hoping that perhaps during the discussion, someone said maybe we could do this in about 6 months. I don't know if that's possible, but I certainly don't want to go away endorsing this bill and not knowing of any ballpoint starting point. I don't know, can we fix it?
So, Ms. Morton, I thought that I understood that I think it's whatever it is, quadrennial or whatever study is starting imminently, so Senator Patterson's concern that it might wait 2 years or something would not necessarily be applicable in this case? Or is that a thing? Could it be delayed?
I think his concern is if the bill doesn't move. If I'm understanding his concern.
I'm hoping it's going to move.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe I misunderstood the concern?
So I thought what I understood Senator Washington to talk about was moving the bill, but incorporating it into a larger study that will be more comprehensive and therefore possibly more helpful to get the data we need that's already scheduled and that won't be delayed. What I thought I heard you say was that your fear was that it might be a couple of years before they get to that. And what I thought I understood from Ms. Morton is it is time certain, and it will be started. And so it dovetails really nicely, and they kind of play well together. So the bill could be moved, and the study could be even more vigorous and comprehensive by being done with, in context. Am
I
I
think
close?
that is, again, the assumption in the fiscal note, that the agencies are assuming that this would be wrapped into the broader disparity study that is ongoing.
Well, here's the question, if I could, and correct me, Ms. Morton. This bill calls for a very specific study with the results forwarded to the governor. Separate from this, there is the disparity study, which was originally scheduled to be completed in September 2021. It's now, MDOT has requested an extension to September 2023. So that means it's got to be done in the next year and a half. So that's probably over the next year and a half is then when they'll be working on it. I think the question becomes, if it's rolled into the this bigger study, granted it covers more things. It covers business earnings, annual wages, rate of business formation, annual wages for African Americans, and it usually is used as a marker, benchmark for the state doing procurement. So it says we've got to go to 27% or 29%. This is based on the Richmond v. Croson case many years ago, 89. I don't know which will give it more impetus, I guess is my question, Senator, and I think we're open. I think Senator Washington was trying to make it much more explicit that it's addressed by the new disparity study. Ms. Morton says most of the things done are not that specific by field or industry. So, I mean, it's up to the committee, right? I mean, obviously, we don't know what the House is going to do. But normally, there will be 4 years. Last one was done, finished in 17. They were supposed to have one 4 years later, and they asked for a 2-year extension. So, I mean, another way to do it, possibly, and correct me if I'm wrong, is could we just say where this, the operative sentence at the end of your bill, Senator, says the findings are to be forwarded to small business, minority business, and to the governor. And if we added to the disparity study and the efforts at the disparity study, I don't know. I'm working off.
Yeah, well, I am anyway.
Yeah.
I think I like that approach rather than just waiting another 2 years.
Microphone.
I think that would get us closer to what I would like to see happen, Mr. Chair, if somehow we can incorporate that type language as part of the mandate of the bill.
We can. Your study says completed January 1, 2023.
Right.
If this extension is granted, which I'm sure it will be because it's past September 21, it's September 23. So they will have January to September to consider this.
I don't
Look,
think
don't know
that's
how they
enough
work.
time.
I know nothing about them. I just want to try to get us to a place that we feel comfortable.
Well, we could conceivably move the time frame if we need be, could we not?
Well, I think we don't.
Are they on a cycle? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's over our pay grade. The Department of Transportation, who is a moving party in this, requested to the state to move it back to 2 years. I think, I'm not sure we should get in the middle of that one. But I think forwarding this data to the disparity study might get us to where we want to go. I don't know. April, I mean, feel free.
I want to be clear that what this bill is calling for is a disparity study. So I'm just trying to understand what
Oh, okay.
what you're trying to do.
So this is a disparity
This is a disparity. That is what they are requesting in this bill, is a disparity study. It's a disparity study to look specifically at this industry group with the based on the belief that it has not been fully kind of covered by the bigger disparity study in the past.
That wasn't clear to me. I didn't know, I didn't see the word disparity, and I didn't know if,
I think they do use it at one point. They say, I think they do at some point call it that, but maybe not.
well, in line 21 on page 1. Okay, I didn't see that. Look, if we're comfortable with the bill as it is, we can move it as it is.
Let's go ahead and move it. Let's go at it from a disparity study. That's what they requested. That's what I requested. That's what I'm willing to live with.
Okay. So the bill before us is, the bill is introduced. Discussion. Discussion. Seeing none, would anybody like to be recorded in the negative? Seeing none, that'll go to the floor, 11-0. Another one for Patterson. Another one for Patterson. Okay, we're going to, let's go to 221. I think we're going to hold one, we're going to come back to one, oh, she's here. Magic. You come up through the floor and,
You missed the compliments,
oh,
Stacy. You missed the compliments from Senator Simon.
no, Senator Simoneer, why don't you repeat it for the record? We want to stroke the ego, so, you know.
Walked out on me when I was thanking her. She does a great job. She's always sending me emails and keeping things straight, and we were able to work out some details so we didn't have to take up the committee time. So really appreciate all the work she's putting in.
They all
Just watching, so Stacy Goodman, if you want to send cards and letters.
Or chocolate.
Right. Okay, then we will go to 124. I'm sorry, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a chance to speak with Stacy when she got back, and on that one bill, I think just leave it the way it was, unamended. And there's a chance the House might not agree with it anyway, so then we could come back later if we had to. But for now, we don't feel like the amendment will be necessary, so we can just roll with it, save you some time.
Reconsider our motion for reconsideration.
Yeah. Or just delete that 3
Okay.
minutes of time.
Without
there.
objection, that bill is passed,
Yeah, back on the.
and we'll worry about it later after the House puts its fingerprints on it. So that is 482. 482 is passed and sent to the floor. Now, we're on track. 124.
Senate Bill 124, Public Schools Grant Program to Reduce and compost school waste. Sorry. This bill establishes the grant program to reduce and compost school waste. The Maryland Association for Environmental and Outdoor Education must review grant applications and select recipients to be awarded grants by the Maryland State Department of Education, which administers the program. The governor must include in the annual budget bill an appropriation of at least $500,000 for the program. MSDE and the Association for Environmental and Outdoor Education may retain a portion of this appropriation to cover administrative costs of the program. There is an amendment from Senator Pinsky. It starts on page 22 of your packet. This amendment essentially reorganizes the provisions regarding project eligibility to require each project to provide certain educational, infrastructure, and training requirements regarding food waste, and then add at least one additional action that's in the bill. Further, the grant amount is reduced to $250,000, and it adds a 5-year sunset.
Is there a motion on the bill? It's been moved. Is there a second somewhere? Second. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is another example. This was on the list to go to Budget and Tax. They had asked for $500,000. Budget and Tax thought it was worthwhile enough, but not at that cost, and they sent back they'll approve 250. You know, when you've got one committee does policy and the other does funding, that's just how it works. So with that, I incorporated that number into the bill. The sponsor is aware of that, and so the bill is amended where B&T has signed off on it. So, discussion, any objection to the amendment? The sponsor is aware of all aspects of the amendment. Seeing no discussion, the amendment is adopted. The bill as amended, discussion. Okay, anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Seeing none, 11-0-124 goes to the floor. Next.
Okay. This is Senate Bill 221, Department of the Environment Enforcement Authority. This bill updates, standardizes, and expands authorized penalty and enforcement actions that can be taken to enforce several provisions of the Environment Article governing the appropriation or use of waters, reservoirs, or dams, non-tidal wetlands, water pollution control, drinking water, water quality laboratories, water works and waste system operators, and wetlands and riparian rights. Generally, the bill authorizes or augments civil, administrative, and/or injunctive remedies. The bill also establishes new reporting requirements for drinking water and wastewater facilities and establishes a definition of person under Title 12, Waterworks and Waste System Operators. There are amendments in your voting packet offered by Senator Hester. Those amendments appear on page 28 with the reprint starting on page 30. These amendments, in each instance where the bill authorizes administrative penalties, requires economic benefit, the economic benefit resulting from the violation to be taken into consideration when setting the penalty amount. Amendments prohibit the use of administrative penalties for water resources violations if the calculated economic benefit resulting from the violation exceeds $100,000. In those cases, the Department of the Environment would have to initiate a civil action. Creates the right for public to intervene in proceedings under the Administrative Procedure Act involving water quality labs or waterworks and wastewater system operators.
Okay, let's first get the bill before us. It's moved by the vice chair and seconded by Senator Hester and Ellis. And I'm going to take the amendment in just a second. The basic thrust of this bill, as I understand it, is to address the gaps, particularly in water quality and drinking water, where there have been some dangerous problems that the Attorney General has spoken about. So it's more than that, but I think at 30,000 feet, that's what it's trying to do. Now we have a set of amendments from Senator Hester. I assume that's moved by Senator Hester. Is there a second to get it on the floor? Senator Ellis. Can we walk through it a little bit? I'm not sure. I mean, economic benefit resulting from the violation. The economic benefit from the violation. So in other words, if drinking water, bad drinking water is coming out of somewhere or being provided, I'm trying to get my head around what is the economic benefit of the violation. So please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So these amendments were brought to my attention by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and I guess you're going to the second amendment. Sorry, I just lost my page. The one around the economic benefit is put forward for our consideration, and the thinking behind this amendment is that there may be people who make a bad action and can benefit financially from not doing the right thing. And therefore, if they're benefiting financially, they would get a higher penalty than somebody who's not, that makes a mistake and there's no financial gain. So it's trying to tie the size of the penalty to the I guess the actors who, you know, are flagrantly like going against the spirit of the law or the law.
That's a new concept to me. Maybe it's in other areas. Do we do that in any other environmental penalties?
That would be a question for council.
It's your amendment, though. But, okay, you don't know of any
I
particular.
don't know. And honestly, I thought these were worth discussing. I'm not sure how I feel about all of them, but I thought it made sense. But if we don't do it, then it's a huge lift, and I wouldn't want to jeopardize the bill.
It does not appear currently in the, thank you, other provisions that deal with, so part of what this bill is trying to do is it's trying to add administrative penalty options for the Department of the Environment in areas where they do not currently have it. So an administrative penalty is essentially a fine that's assessed by the department without having to go through a court case before a judge. It's an administrative procedures, you know, process. So the language right now mirrors the language in other places that, where administrative penalties are assessed. So just flagging that it would be, if we added this language here, it would be different from the language, for example, of administrative penalties for air quality or, you know, water quality violations where they currently have that authority.
Senator Riley.
Thank you very much. Can anybody give me an example of an economic benefit that would result from the violation? I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. It's in my opinion, it's worded awkwardly, but maybe there's an example that we could put before the committee that would illustrate an economic benefit.
I was going to call myself responding, and let me incorporate.
Sure, please.
Look, this bill, as it's come in, will be a great step forward and give the Attorney General more civil and internal power. And if you look at the 32 and 33, this is pretty crucial. This is where your First Amendment would go, on the top of 33, right? It's underlined. If you look at the list, starting on line 14 on 32, assessed with consideration given to. So that's the list that's being added to. Willfulness, the harm to the environment, the cleanup, degree of injury, the effect of the location and harming the waters beyond that stream or river. Then it goes degree of hazard posed by the particular pollutant, the extent to which the current violation is part of a recurrent pattern or the same or similar type. I would say, Senator Riley, that cutting corners and producing violations is exactly what this amendment's about, and I think it runs through all 8 of those. So I guess my point is, as much as I generally agree with the CBF, I think it adds a layer that we don't need. I just think this is going to give the Attorney General a lot of authority to make sure this doesn't happen, and if it does, he or she or whoever the next one will be. While I'm very sympathetic to this, you know, the amendment, I mean, I like it. You know, I want to go after the people who benefit from doing harm. I think most of it covers it, and I think this would be even more difficult to explain on the floor. So I don't want to make the perfect out of the good, or whatever that phrase is. So, yeah. So that's, and I hadn't seen this before, and I haven't talked to CBF or the Attorney General. I'm seeing it for the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There were 3 parts to this, and if we could vote on them separately, that would be my preference, because there's one that I like more than the other 2. Well, should we vote on the second one now, since we just discussed it, or should I speak to the first one? I like the first one. I think I don't, the one that I'm talking about is just the requirement for MDE to let the Attorney General's office know when they're taking administrative action.
Where is that, Senator?
Page 29, letter M.
Yeah, no, tell us either the words or where in the reprint it is. Amendment 1
Yeah, no,
that you forwarded to us is just purpose paragraph. Amendment 2 is this economic benefit. So I want to try to track, we can split it up. Let's
Yeah,
not get too formal here.
My apologies, I
What do
hadn't
you
actually
like?
seen the amendment. So in conversations with the foundation, the part that we wanted to get in there was the requirement for MDE to let the Attorney General's office know that they're taking an administrative action to enforce the environmental laws. And the purpose of that would be to allow for a discussion between the department and the Attorney General's office regarding whether the civil action or referral to the office might be more appropriate. And at this point, only a small number of cases are referred, and this notice could help determine if there are more opportunities for a referral. And if more cases are referred, that would mean more robust enforcement, because those cases tend to, have a more severe penalty or discussion.
So I'm just trying to understand. I see language within 30 days after service of an order under the subtitle, the department shall provide a copy of the order to the Office of the Attorney General. I see that. I know you said that. That's in your freestanding amendment, the next to last paragraph.
Yes, that is correct.
Right. But is it also wanting to put 3 and 6 in, or are they linked? I don't know if committee counsel has had a chance to look at these. I'm sorry.
Of the motion to intervene?
Yes.
Yeah, so, and, I'm thinking this might, I hate to say a drafter error, but I think there might be, if that was the intent of the amendments, it's not reflected in the amendments. What the amendments say is that it's within 30 days of service of an order under this subtitle, but that subtitle only deals with water quality laboratories. So it's just, that's not what the amendments are doing. And in terms of the interventions, I mean, as I said before, the interventions, at least the way they're drafted right now, only provide this right of intervention in proceedings involving water quality laboratories and waterworks and waste systems operators. So again, I don't think that was necessarily the intent. It sounds like what they are looking for is a broader authorization for any any proceeding under the Administrative Procedure Act where they're looking at administrative penalties, that's what they want. I would just note that again kind of gets us outside of the scope of what is currently in the bill, because there are lots of areas currently where the department has that authority. That if you wanted to cover them all, we'd have to either draft it to each of those areas or to an entirely new section that just says.
Okay, let's do this. Let's hold this. Let's see if, I think in the first comment in me responding to Senator Riley, I think there might be unanimity. I'm not sure you're going to want to move that one. Why don't you get this language of CBF, and if she has time, or you can call the amendment room to get it right. I agree with her. Where it's placed is not, I don't think, the intent. It was the broader intent. So let's try to narrow it down. If we can get it ready by tomorrow, we will. If not, we'll do it next week. I will tell you this. There is a lot going to be on the floor the next week, a week and a half. So even when we move this, it'll probably be later next week. So let's get it right. We'll either take it up tomorrow or early next week. Any objection to that? Please.
Chairman, just, I think there's a couple other amendments floating around, one from Mako. Have you seen that one yet?
I have,
Okay,
to just be, could you also get that drafted through the amendment office? Because.
that's fine. Just
Again,
wanted
I
to
just want to
highlight
be
to
very
the
clear
chairman.
about what they're doing.
There's a couple other things coming in, so it's a good reason to hold it.
I haven't even gotten that.
Yeah,
I'm working
she-
like 15 minutes ahead of time, so, okay, let's get it right. When we can take up the issues and we'll vote them up or vote them down and debate them. Okay, so 221 is a hold, and it may come up tomorrow.
Yes.
Ms. Foxworth, the response you got from one of the agencies, is that still make this problematic?
So I didn't hear from the agencies that the issue was with the DC Press Association that
Yeah.
had some concerns?
Yeah, I'm not worried about them. I suggested an amendment. I love those people, but the amendment that I proffered,
It's in the packet.
is that, was there a constitutional question about that or not?
No, not on this one.
Okay, let's take it up then.
Okay. So Senate Bill 373, Public Information Act, required denial sociological information and distribution lists. This bill allows an inspection of a notice or a list of recipients who receive notice from Maryland Department of Transportation for eminent domain entry, excludes the list of individuals from a distribution list for purposes of mandatory denial, requires a current distribution list to be redacted, and it excludes MDOT, Department of Transportation eminent domain list from any sort of protection that would prohibit it from being disclosed. There are two amendments. The first you see is on page 56. This is sponsored by Senator Penske. And then on page 56. And then on page 57, there's an amendment sponsored by Senator Kagan. Senator Penske's amendments completely remove references to sociological information and distribution list, and instead grants the requirement for the State Highway Administration and the Maryland Transit Administration to send copies of the notices directly to the General Assembly delegation representing the property when a notice is received that MDOT is going to make entry. There's a separate amendment from Senator Kagan that so there are two separate issues. The first in Senator Kagan's amendment allows the portion of a distribution list that identifies a physical address, email address, or telephone number. It requires that to be private. And then on a separate issue, it grants General Assembly members the right to receive copies of notices, names of those individuals who received the notices, and addresses of individuals who received the notice for eminent domain entry. So one is briefly a Public Information Act issue, and then the second sort of grants an affirmative right to General Assembly members to receive this information instead of going through the Public Information Act route. And so it also gets rid of the distribution list and the sociological information references, and instead just authorizes the General Assembly to have that information.
Ask a question of the sponsor, and then we'll put it before us, or we might have to do a little more work. Was the issue that you shared with us that they were hunting and pecking around on the street and the front property before they gave notice to the people on the affected property?
That is Not the way I understood it. I understood it that residents got a letter from MDOT, from the Maryland Department of Transportation, MDTA, and then they came onto their property and legislators weren't informed. So this is trying to fix a small problem I think we ought to keep it a narrow solution to a narrow problem. So if we want to replicate the McCrae version that we just passed, which is what the Pinsky Amendment is, I think that helps resolve it and just gives legislators the information about what's going on in their district. I think that's fine. I think my amendment is fine. I defer to the will of the committee.
So, I'm still not sure how your amendments and mine are the same or differ, but in the Pinsky Amendment on 56, when it says shall send a copy of the notice, so whatever anybody else gets in the neighborhood, they will get. So if it's a notice saying we're going to eminent domain and we're looking to evaluate the property, the senator or the delegation will get that notice. Is that what I can assume the last paragraph to mean? Right. Okay.
So I'll move the Pinsky Amendment.
Okay. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, Bill. We spent a lot of time on it. I want to make it simple. I don't want them to go through any more gyrations. So if this works. Okay. First, I don't know if the bill's in front of us or not, but the bill's moved. It's been seconded. The Pinsky Amendment, which strips the bill and makes it a little more simple, is before us. So the bill's amended. 373 is amended. If it's in your district, someone else is getting a letter about eminent domain, you'll get it. That's all it does. Okay. Any objection to the bill's amended? Please.
There's been other issues where we've had bills in here where they say notify the General Assembly members about this, and usually they reject that. I mean, that's generically what we do. We, the committee or other committees. So I guess my question is, what makes this rise to the level that they should be notified? Then two, should the county council be notified? I mean, it's not just a state delegation issue. We're talking about representatives. And I think you open that door when you say you do it for this, then somebody's going to come in next year and say, well, we need to do it for this, we need to do it for this. And so that's just my concern.
And to be clear, I agree with the chair. I think this is a small bill, and I don't think we ought to spend a lot of time on it. So we just passed a McCrae bill that talked about projects in our districts, in our neighborhoods, and us being notified. So this isn't notify the entire General Assembly. This is, if it were in Kensington, tell the folks from District 18, which is where the problem was, and that's where Delegate Carr has been doing this. So I know we don't normally care about. Anyway, I was going to say, it passed the House unanimously, so it's a baby bill. In terms of adding council members, I think that's fine, if that makes sense to me as well. If you don't want to do that, I'm not falling on my sword on this one, with all due respect to Delegate Carr, who is listening to us right now. Delegate Carr is great. This isn't the biggest issue on the planet.
Yeah, Senator, I'm sympathetic to what you said. I put this amendment in to clean it up. If the committee doesn't want to move it, that's fine. I must say that under Treasurer Kopp, she notified us, at least I think all of us, when a project was in our district up, and I appreciated that. I mean, most of the time I didn't do anything, and I don't know how much extra work it took. So I appreciate it, but this is not a high priority for me. So I put the amendment in to make it streamlined, but if it's not worth their time to send it to the floor, whatever the committee wants to do. So right now, it's in front of us in an amended fashion. Everything's been discussed. Yeah. It's favorable as amended on the floor. Who wants to vote against it? That's fine. I mean, just raise your hand. Okay, I see 3 hands. Okay, 8-3, favorable as amended. Carrozza, Simon Air, and Gallion voting in the negative. You're good? I want to be notified about evidence of. Okay. Just 8-3, as amended, 373. Next,
On 393, we are still waiting for a fiscal note notification from B&T.
it's a hold. 455.
55, this bill establishes a Chesapeake Bay and coastal sport fishing license pilot program in the Department of Natural Resources and a task force on recreational fishing data collection and licensing. There is no amendment. However, I would note that the Department of Natural Resources recommended clarifying which recreational license this applies to. It appears that the intent is just to apply to the boat license, which is, you get a decal that you put on your vessel that allows the people on the boat to recreationally fish. So if the committee decides to move it, I would recommend just a clarifying amendment on that.
Is there a second? Discussion on the bill?
I'd like to see the bill move forward with the amendment.
Okay. Could you, one more time, give us a clarifying amendment, roughly?
Yeah, so, I mean, where the amendment would say, I mean, it'd really just be the insert a single word. So right now, it talks about demographic data and other data related to individuals fishing under a Chesapeake Bay and coastal sport fishing license issued under section 4-745D. Just add sport fishing boat license, or, yeah, boat license.
Okay. That amendment is moved by Senator Riley. Anybody, is there a second? Any objection to the amendment? You might be taking the floor, Senator Gallion.
Oh, good.
No.
Being nice and second.
Okay. Any objection to the amendment? Okay, the bill is amended. Another one for Bailey, 455. Anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? Seeing not, to the floor. Next.
Senate Bill 466, Potomac River Compact, clarification of the effectiveness of amendments. This bill clarifies that specified amendments to the Potomac River Compact made by Chapter 144 of 2007 and Chapters 234 and 235 of 2013 are in effect. My understanding is that this bill came out of work in the Joint Subcommittee on Federal Relations.
No, but it's got to go in front of the Patuxent Commission. It's been moved by the vice chair and been seconded by somebody. Senator Patterson seconds the bill. No amendments. Any objection to moving it forward? If not, 11-0 on the vote. Next.
Okay. Senate Bill 476. This is a statewide alcohol bill. This bill extends the termination date of Chapters 359 and 360 of 2021, which modified the state's regulation of alcoholic beverage manufacturers from December 31st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023.
Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded. There are no amendments. Discussion. Senator Simon Air, and then I'll go to the sponsor.
I thought there might have been an amendment in the House. We can move it as this way, but I didn't know if we wanted to try to keep it in the same form as the House. I thought Senator Hester may know something about that.
Do you know? Mr. Rifkin, you want to come to the tape? Mr. Rifkin, come to the table, tell us who you are.
For the record, Brad Rifkin on behalf of the breweries, wineries, and distilleries. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, the Alcoholic Beverage Subcommittee in ECM did add an amendment to the bill, and the amendment actually makes clear that the language that was passed out of this committee back in 2020 session, which Senator Simonaire had sponsored in his bill, that made certain privileges permanent with respect to off-premise events, and clarified language from the Modernization Act of 2019, that the ECM made those things permanent because they sunset everything last year in the bill. So we would accept that and would ask that this committee also include the same amendment.
I know there are going to be questions. What is made permanent specifically?
So there are off-premise events that breweries, wineries, and distilleries can go to, think like a farmer's market. What we did in the 2020 session that, in a bill that you all passed, and in a bill that was passed, the same bill that passed last year out of this committee, which was just make all of those events consistent for the breweries, wineries, and distilleries. And then you also last year, in the same bill, made clarifications to the Modernization Act with respect to certain sections of code that referenced the amount of beer that can be produced. Unfortunately, in alcoholic beverage law, there are so many sections that reference the amount of alcohol that can be produced. There were some errors. We caught those errors back in 2020. We passed it out of the same bill in 2020. We passed it in the bill in 2021. And when everything was sent over to the House last year, they, for whatever reason, chose to sunset the entire bill. And by sunsetting the entire bill and not keeping permanent those clarifications, we had to come back and change it again. So I think they realized that instead of us coming back in 2023, they preferred just to make it permanent, which is what you've already done twice.
So
I know it's complicated, and this kind of happened quickly.
it doesn't affect the primary purpose of this bill, which extended the off-sale till June 1.
Correct.
It does not make that permanent.
It does not make that permanent. So their amendment made it very clear that the June 30th extension of the sunset, which is what we requested, that only applies to the delivery, to the direct shipping, to the amount you can sell off-premise. The other pieces to the bill, from the same bill that you all passed last year and the year before, which we were trying to make permanent, which were these clarification changes and the consistency amongst off-premise events, they made those things permanent finally after 2 years.
And I know you can't speak for them, and we can hold this for a day.
Yeah.
The retailers and distributors, in terms of that House amendment,
There was,
to the best of your knowledge,
to the best of my knowledge, there was no discussion on it, and that language comes from language that we all agreed to when Senator Simonaire put the bill in 2 years ago. It was an agreement between the retailers, between the wholesalers, and between us.
okay, let me have the sponsor and then Senator Simonaire, and then we'll make a decision. Senator.
I think the original intent of the bill to extend 6 months is important, and I've just been deferring to all the negotiations that have gone on in the background, so I support the amendment made in the House.
Keep it in the same form. What we had mentioned a couple years ago, it was like distillery and these events, it was like, they were saying, we need to do this because they're doing that, and it was a cycle, and we said, why don't we just make them the same for all of them? And so I think that was 2 years ago, we
Yeah.
put that in, and there was some cleanup language. So I would suggest that we get the actual amendment, confirm that, and then move
And it's
forward.
my understanding that what they did was what you all passed last year. If you remember last year, you passed all of these provisions, and there were some provisions that were sunset, and there were some provisions that were made permanent, and they have now realized that the provisions that were supposed to be made permanent should be, after the termination of the upcoming sunset. I'm sorry, it's confusing, I know.
Okay, let's do this. We have a voting session for tomorrow. Let's get the amendment, the House
Yeah.
amendment, and if someone cares, they can call Mr. Wise or Mr. Manis and just confirm that this does
Fine.
not change anything from the last intent of the last 2 years. And then we'll just take it up tomorrow.
We didn't even asked the House to do this. I think they just did it on their own,
Got
so
it.
we're okay with it.
Okay, any objection? Seeing none, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bill 537, Department of Natural Resources Shrimp Fishery Regulations Clarification. This bill clarifies the Department of Natural Resources' existing authority to adopt regulations governing any aspect of the shrimp fishery and establishing and implementing a pilot program related to fishing for shrimp, authorizes the department to adopt those regulations notwithstanding any other provision of state fisheries laws. So my understanding right now, so this builds off of a bill that was, I believe, adopted last year that allowed the department to start looking at and developing regulations for and doing some pilot projects around the potential development of a shrimp fishery in Maryland and even in some waters of the Chesapeake Bay. Right now, there are broader laws that have to do with restrictions on certain types of gear that the department wants to be able to use in these pilot projects. So they want the authority to be made clear that they can do that.
You want to move the bill? Second. Discussion? No amendments. This is a small bill.
Shrimpy.
Okay, discussion? Sorry.
I think there's something fishy in some of them.
Yeah, I started something I should, okay. Anybody wish to be recorded in the negative? It's 10-01, Senator Lamb is out. Next.
Senate Bill
No, I think we're
540, Higher Education Transfer Platform Established, the Transfer with Success Act 2.0. This bill requires each community college and four-year institution of higher education that receives state funds, for example, public four-year institutions and institutions that receive funding from the Sellinger Grant Program, to participate in a transfer platform to facilitate the transfer of students from community colleges to four-year institutions of higher education. The Maryland Higher Education Commission must establish the transfer platform or delegate the responsibility to the University System of Maryland under specified circumstances. The institutions must follow specified transfer protocols and complete specified tasks. Beginning in fiscal 2024, the governor must include $1 million to support the operation of the transfer platform. MHEC may not charge community colleges or four-year institutions of higher education a fee to participate in the transfer platform. There is one amendment, and you have a separate packet on your desk. It has STAG at the top. That's a copy of the amendment and a copy of the reprint, to make it a little easier to understand. So, this bill, okay.
It's STAG at the top. It's about 8 pages. It was on your desk. Okay.
Okay. So this will make it similar to the bill as passed by the House, but not exactly the same, because it fixes some drafting errors. It revises student transfer procedures to require a receiving institution to approve the transfer of a credit or course from a sending institution if at least 70% of the learning outcomes of the credit or course are equivalent. It requires a public institution of higher education that doesn't honor information in the transfer platform to report the failure as a denial of a transfer credit in a certain report. Requires community colleges and public institutions of higher education to participate in the transfer platform. It requires non-public institutions to participate if 50 or more community college students transfer to the non-public institution or of higher education, or authorizes any non-public to participate regardless of the number of student transfers. Further, it requires the commission to establish the transfer platform or use or delegate to the University System of Maryland, if it already has one, while retaining certain authority over enforcement of the system and access to the data. It provides for certain components of the transfer platform, and finally, it strikes the appropriation.
Let's get the bill in front of us first. Anybody want to move it? It's been moved. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. Let's move the amendments, at least for discussion purposes. Anybody object? It's moved and seconded. You want to speak to it?
Question for the staff.
Please.
Thank you. Page 2 of 4, it's that public institution, line 16. If the public institution of the higher education does not honor the information in the transfer platform, can you elaborate on that a little bit? I'm a little uncomfortable with what that means. So, for instance, if we have 60 credits from Anne Arundel Community College, it's going to Hopkins, and Hopkins disallows 2 courses. Is that the type of information that has to be put on the transfer platform, and the other credits would be recorded as acceptable, do you think?
So I think the intent here is that, for example, if they put the information in the transfer platform and it's not honored by the institution, for example, for some reason they deny it when in fact the courses or the credits do line up, then they have to report it as a failure, just specifically in that report.
Do you think they'll be listing individual courses by course number, accept or reject? Is that your impression?
Well, from what I understand, these are articulation agreements, right? And so what they do is, for example, they're going to compare the course at a community college in a specific area, and then they look to see whether that is comparable to the similar type of program at the receiving institution. And that's where the language of if at least 70% of the learning
Yeah.
outcomes are equivalent.
I got that fine. I'm going back to the recording in the platform, and
I think it's being misread. I think, and please correct me, Ms. Goodman, the institution shall report the failure to honor information in the platform, the information in the platform, not the denial in the platform. Is that?
Give me an example of the difference.
My understanding
No, they have to
is-
report it as a denial. If they don't honor the information, they have to report it as a denial for the purposes of whatever that report is, I think is what they're,
My understanding, and again, Ms. Goodman might have this better, they're going to say, advanced calculus, blah, 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 taken at the community college will be accepted for a course that covers some of the same outcomes. But it's not a common numbering system. They aren't willing to go that far yet. And some university, I'm going to say hypothetically College Park or Towson,
Those are public, these are private.
no. I don't know what
It's
you're,
a public institution. Oh, I'm sorry, so that's University of Maryland?
yeah, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I thought it was private.
No.
I was confused.
yeah. Look,
Never mind.
okay. I met with a number of these people the other day.
I'm sorry.
And apparently, no, I think you raised an important point. There are a lot of agreements between the community college and the privates. And to be honest with you, it's not like a lot of people from community college are transferring to Hopkins. The number is fairly small. It's like 7. The largest number of transfers from community colleges are to College Park, Towson, and UMBC, then I think Salisbury. And among the USM institutions, there have been challenges or tensions in some campuses more than others. We have all along tried to not have all these complaints from our students in our districts that said they rejected me. So that's where they're trying to get to the point of if the outcomes are analogous 70%, they have to accept it. So I think that's what they're trying to do here. Senator Ellis.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in trying to follow this bill, I tried to see what terms mean, and usually there's a definition. So I see the term transfer platform. I'm trying to get my brain around what that is. And it's not defined in here. So what's a platform? In reference to this bill, please, Ms. Goodman.
In this case, it's similar. It's just like an application or an operating system, a database. And basically, each of the institutions, the receiving institution and the sending institution, they're going to upload certain information about courses into this database. And then, so what they're looking at is, again, as Senator Pinsky just explained, so that when a student who's in community college wants to transfer to a four-year institution, they can look to see what courses that they've either taken or ones they anticipate taking once getting there, to make sure that all of those credits transfer over into the other institution so they don't have to retake them, those courses.
Yeah, so this database will be specific to each student's coursework, and that student can see the courses they take and whether they will be accepted at the, I guess, the gaining institution.
Well, I don't think it's specific. So they have new provisions in here about what it's to include. If you look on pages 3 and the holdover 3 in your reprint, so these are what the transfer platform has to do. It has to allow these students and advisors to determine if a course will transfer from the community college to the four-year, provide recommended courses to students for specific programs of study at four-year institutions, include options for students that compare courses, allow a student to establish an account, allow access to saved searches, those kind of things. So yes, that what you're asking for would be included in the transfer platform.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. So when I was a student at the University of Maryland, my senior year, met with my advisor, and we had to develop a contract and say, these are the courses you need to graduate. And the contract was real. If they missed something, I was not held responsible for that. So this database, this platform, will it do a similar function where the students take their classes at a two-year school, and if it's in the database on the platform, then they take the class, that means they will transfer?
Well, they have to look. I mean, that's the point of the platform, is for the various institutions to compare these courses, because to make sure that the community college students, that the learning objectives, the outcomes, all of those things are going to align, because they may not. I mean, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
The receiving institution could look at a community college course and say, it's less than 70% of the learning outcomes here, so this will not be an acceptable
Okay.
course.
So, thank you for that. So I'm trying to get to, okay, is this a planning tool for the community college students to design their course of study so that they do not waste their time taking a class that will not be accepted?
That is the goal.
That's the goal.
Yes.
And that's how it will be specific to each student, to
Specific to the courses.
the courses.
So in other words, if they're transferring to College Park, and they look at the course they've taken, either if they're going to take 5 courses if they transfer, it'll say a prerequisite is, or you will get credit for your first 2 years, that we find Algebra 2 or 3 is comparable to the one we give. And hopefully in most cases, it'll show their credit will transfer, and they'll be able to take the next courses, because there's an alignment. There's been a tension that some of the universities say it doesn't cover the same thing, or it's not as rigorous. and that becomes a tension. A young man or woman will transfer to school, and all of a sudden, 10 of their credits don't count. And we want to get past that. So it's going to be not the student, but the classes. So the community colleges will upload what the classes are, what the outcomes were, and the receiving university will put their courses all up there. And the software, the platform, shows how they connect.
Okay, so,
Is that fair? Is that close?
okay, thank you for that. So I'm getting there, almost there. I would understand what the platform does. So the four-year institution will meet up with the two-year institution. And so, say, College of Southern Maryland, their courses will go on the platform, and those courses will be evaluated by, say, College Park. And they'll say, yeah, this course meets our requirements and is transferable. Okay, yes, okay. Great, thank you. That's really great.
Been an ongoing battle because too many community college people had their courses rejected. But, by some of the four-year institutions. And there was a question, was it because they didn't feel it was rigorous enough or because it didn't match up? And we get calls on that. And we tried to push them to say every college course in the state should have the same comparable number. So there's no subjective BS. There was concern, some institutions thought, we're so rigorous and we're so tough and these are so easy courses. This is to try to get past that. And there's a system in place now called ARTSUS, which stands for something, which USM, but USM has been running it, not the Higher Education Commission. This bill assumes that ARTSUS is going to be upgraded by $1 million to be more sophisticated and more arrangements between the colleges to accept more and have a very clear understanding so there's no subjective stuff going on.
Another quick question. So I'm referring back to, I think, yesterday's bill here in Senator Castley with the Hartford Community College president. This would take care of that issue too. And so as far as...
My understanding is this covers in a more systematic way what he brought up.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't want to,
No,
Senator Castley's bill very closely yet.
Okay.
The members of the panel asserted that it was supposed to, they would work together, and one wasn't, this bill, you didn't have to, you could pass both of them and they would work together. But I haven't really looked closely
Okay,
at the other,
well,
so I don't know for
Okay,
certain.
well, that's fair. Thank you.
so we have the bill and the amendments. And they are close to the House amendments, but not exactly. We've added some more, so it's going to have to go back to them. It does take out the money. Some people aren't happy with that. Community colleges are not happy with that. But the House stripped the money, saying all the community colleges and four-year private, nonprofit, and the university got large increases this year, so they shouldn't cry about this. So anyway, that's where we are on this. So the amendments, does anybody have any objection to the amendments? And for the private nonprofits, if they receive more than 50 students, they have to join. Other private nonprofits of MICUA can join. Okay.
The money, the $1 million is taken out. That's the money you're referring to, right? To upgrade the system at university? Yeah.
Put in $1 million additional dollars.
So that was meant to use the University of Maryland College Park system to expand it to all public schools.
It was run by USM, but everybody used it. it doesn't change that. Last year, they all used it, and they all contributed money to help pay for it.
Okay. So you're
The
saying that
community colleges, the private nonprofits, MICUA, and all the 13 campuses of USM, they all kicked in to this, pay for this system that USM has ownership, ARTSYS, and now they want to upgrade it.
So they can upgrade without the money, is that what you're saying? And if we pass this bill, it will happen.
So
In fact, we did not give them money.
previously, USM ran the system and didn't take any additional money. But now they want additional money because they want to upgrade the system. And then last year was the first year that they requested some contribution from each of the publics, from the community colleges, and then certain MICUA institutions, non-publics, also contributed and participated in the system. Apparently, it's not a flat fee. They each pay based on some system that is not quite clear to me or to other people. But, so it's not balanced. It's like, for example, Montgomery College pays, community college paid a lot more than, say, Garrett Community College. Right, but,
Total enrollment, or it's based on transfers, but Garrett paid 2,000, Montgomery College paid 63,000.
so essentially, though, each of the institutions, the higher ed, they received a substantial budget increase this year. And after taking a look at it, the House determined that they could afford to pay again the same contribution, and that the total of the contributions would be $1 million. And therefore, the House decided not to, and they said they would not change. They're not going to do that.
So did the schools accept that
They did, they
recommendation? Or to be
paid, they
a-
paid last year.
But,
so.
to implement this bill without the money, will they do it, or will they have a choice to or not to do it?
Well, if you pass the bill says that all the publics have to participate, and that the non-publics have to participate if they have 50 students or more who transfer from community colleges into that institution, and then the other students may participate if they want to.
Okay.
MAC, the community colleges aren't happy. They were hoping to get the state to kick in everything. But essentially, it's calling for them to give us close to what they gave this past year. So it's not like this is a new fee on them. And so, like I said, it ranges from 2,000 to 60,000.
Right. Okay, thank you for that.
One, and that'll go to the floor in that posture. Next.
Senate Bill 545, Carroll County Commissioners' Compensation and Benefits. This emergency bill increases the salary of a county commissioner in Carroll County from $45,000 to $50,000 and authorizes the commissioner to receive reimbursement for county-related expenses. The bill prohibits Carroll County from establishing a group insurance plan or pension plan for county commissioners that is separate from full-time employee plans. Commissioners aren't eligible for employer matching. Salary provisions take effect beginning the next term, and the entire bill does not apply to someone whose final term of office expires before December 1st, 2022. There are sponsor amendments to conform this bill to the House and changes that last piece that I spoke. So the provisions will apply to those who, won't apply to those whose final terms end before December 6th. As opposed to December 1st. That was a drafting error.
Seeing none, the Senate Bill 545 will be recorded as 10-01 with Senator Lamb absent. Sorry? As amended, that's what I totally said. Thank you, Senator Riley. Next up is Senate Bill 569, Senator Simon Ayer. April.
Bill 569, alcoholic beverages, Class 4 limited winery licenses extension. This is another statewide alcohol bill. This bill grants additional time for certain holders of Class 4 limited winery licenses to comply with the requirements of Chapter 542 of 2018, which modified the eligibility requirements to obtain and maintain a Class 4 limited winery license. As a result of the change, a person who held a Class 4 limited winery license on or before June 30th, 2018 is required to meet the eligibility requirements of Chapter 542 by May 1st, 2024 instead of May 1st, 2022. There are no amendments.
I have a question for council. This is not listed as an emergency bill, but it says it takes effect April 15th of this year.
Yeah, it's unusual. No, yeah, I think that's wrong.
Mr. Ullman is shaking his head.
Yeah, I don't think that,
I didn't
yeah,
think it's not legal.
that is a good catch. It would have to be an emergency bill, or else I think the
Or
earliest
need
it
to
can be
change
is
it
June 1st.
to June 1, right. Which way do you prefer it, Senator Simonaire?
I think June 1's fine, 'cause
Okay, so Senator Simonaire is going to make a motion to change the effective date to June 1?
No, because right now, the date is May 1st. So we would need to make it an emergency bill.
I move we make an emergency.
Okay, is there a second? Senator Riley seconds the motion to make this an emergency bill. Are there any objections to the amendment? Any objections to the bill? Seeing none, Senate Bill 569 goes to the floor unanimously as amended. Next bill is Senate Bill 589, Senator Hayes. Stacy.
Senate Bill 589, University of Maryland Employees Authorization to Fundraise. This bill authorizes, notwithstanding the restrictions on gift solicitation and use of prestige of office under the Maryland Public Ethics Law, an employee of the University System of Maryland to solicit gifts or proposals for grants for the benefit of the University of Maryland Medical System Corporation, in accordance with the university's policies regarding coordinating fundraising between the university and the corporation. There is one amendment. It's on page 64 of your packet. This is offered by Senator Hayes, and essentially this conforms it to the House version of the bill, which restricts the provisions to employees of the University System of Maryland Baltimore campus only, not the entire University System of Maryland.
589? Yeah, can I be a co-sponsor? The president's constituent of mine's reached out to me. So.
Senator Simonaire, do you want to move the bill?
I would like to move it.
Okay, is there a second? Senator Riley is second. Then we've got the Hayes Amendment. Is there a motion on the Hayes Amendment? Senator Lamb moves the Hayes Amendment. Senator Simonaire seconds. Can't imagine there are objections to that. Conforms with the House. And now the Simonaire Amendment to add his name as a co-sponsor. Does anyone else want to be added as a co-sponsor? Seeing none. Any objections to the Simonaire Amendment? Seeing none. Senator Simonaire is added as a co-sponsor. So now Senate Bill 589 as amended in two ways. Any objections? Seeing none, Senate Bill 589 goes to the floor unanimously. Next bill is Senate Bill 595. Senator Gazzoni. Stacy.
Yes. Okay, Senate Bill 595, University of Maryland Institute for Public Leadership Establishment. This bill establishes an Institute for Public Leadership at the University of Maryland College Park campus within the School of Public Policy, which must manage the institute according to the policies of the University of Maryland. Generally, the purpose of the institute is to support students, build an active community of practitioners, and serve as a resource for public leaders. For fiscal 2023 through 2027, the governor must include $1.5 million for the institute in the annual budget bill. We are primary on this, and this goes to B&T after we're done, so we didn't have to get their approval.
Okay, is there a motion on the bill? Senator Ellis moves, Senator Washington seconds. Any Any debate, any discussion? Okay, anyone want to, oh, yes, Senator Patterson.
Madam Vice Chair, I'm just curious, what is this all about? Is this like a fellowship established at the institution, some basically?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stacy, you want to say it again? Clarify that?
Seemed like a pretty easy way to establish a good program.
I mean, it's just like a program within
Yeah.
this School of Public Policy, which is to encourage leadership.
Does it
in,
carry any kind of special name, or is it under the umbrella of the?
It will be called the Institute for Public Leadership at the University of Maryland College Park campus.
We could call it the zone leadership.
That goes, right, exactly. I would suspect, Senator Patterson, that by creating this new institute, that it could be also a fundraising opportunity for the university and possibly a naming opportunity, but I'm making up both of those things. So,
Next.
yep. Does anyone want to be recorded in the negative on this bill? Seeing none, the bill passes unanimously to 10-0 to 1, with the chair having stepped out for a moment. And hopefully he's returning, because we come up to the electricians. And I also don't have the folder in front of me. Yes, I do. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, electricians. Okay. Senate Bill 604, Senator McCray. Ms. Foxworth.
All right. So this bill requires the Board of Electricians to credit work in an improved and completed apprenticeship program towards the 7-year experience requirement for master electricians and the 4-year experience requirement for journeyperson electricians. It exempts master electricians and those practicing under master electrician's assigned local license from a mandatory insurance requirement under current law if the individual only works within the scope of their license or registration and works for someone with sufficient insurance. It requires the Department of Labor to submit a report by January 1st, 2023 on memoranda of understanding between Maryland and other states for reciprocal registration of electrical licenses. There are 2 sponsor amendments, one amendment from Senator Carrozza and one amendment from Senator Penske, all of which should be included in the packet. So the first sponsor amendment is technical, changes the name of the agency that approves the apprenticeship programs. So yes, that would be helpful. Yep, so the sponsor amendment that I just referred to starts on page 68 and goes to page 69. 68 and 69, and that is a technical change.
You want to just describe them all?
Oh, sure. And on page 70, those are the sponsor amendments. So sponsor amendments, number 2, require an applicant for a local electrical permit to hold a state license and to show proof of insurance. Authorizes a local jurisdiction to delay the issuance of a local job permit if there is an additional permit, like a building permit, that is required. It exempts a master electrician and those who practice under a master electrician's assigned local registration from insurance if they contract with someone like a subcontractor who provides electrical services. And they will be exempt if the individual, the subcontractor, for example, maintains insurance in the amounts that are codified in law. The insurance provisions on the sponsor amendment also state that a journeyperson electrician is not required to obtain separate insurance if they are working within their scope of practice. And it requires the Board of Electricians to indicate on the license of an applicant whether the applicant meets insurance requirements.
Okay. Let's actually get this bill before us, since we have multiple amendments, and then we can take them one at a time. So can we have a motion, please? Thank you, Senator O'Reilly, and Senator Lamb seconds. So Senate Bill 604 is before us. Let's do the McCray amendments, which legal counsel said are just technical. Motion on the McCray amendment. Thank you, Senator Riley. Senator Lamb seconds again. Okay. Is there any objection to the Senator McCray technical amendments? Seeing none, those are adopted. And now we have before us, you're going to describe the Carosa amendments,
Yep.
okay?
So the Senator Carosa amendments,
And that
can.
is on page, oh, I had it. That's on page 67.
My understanding is that my amendment is taken care of in Senator McCrae's amendment.
correct.
So there would not be a need for me to have a separate amendment, so I would withdraw that amendment.
So since it hasn't been offered, probably we don't need to withdraw it. So
Okay.
I'm just going to put an X through 604 through the Carosa amendment. And that means that just the McCrae amendment is added to the bill. There are no other amendments?
there are Senator Penske amendments.
Okay, separate packet.
Thank you. So yes, these are numbered. They are
Does
supplemental.
everybody have, it looks like this, separate packet, Penske amendments on 604? Go ahead, please.
So focusing on amendment number 2, as I noticed some errors in amendment number 1 that may confuse the committee. The amendment sponsored by Senator Penske require state licenses for local permits, which is similar to Senator McCrae's amendment. It allows the local jurisdiction to withhold the issuance of a local permit until an additional one is obtained if required. So the local permitting portions within Senator McCrae's sponsor amendment are retained to the extent of the changes to local permitting. But it removes the insurance exception that was within the original bill and removes the references to the insurance changes within Senator McCrae's amendment. So if you recall, under current law, there aren't any exceptions to electricians that would exempt electricians from maintaining insurance. The bill, as introduced, would have, so long as an employer was, or an electrician was working with an employer who maintained insurance. Then the amendments made an additional alteration and kind of expanded it to exempt electricians who worked with subcontractors. So we're going back to the original language in the bill, and we're striking that, and by extension, striking all of the other exemptions. So Senator Penske's amendment will not have any exemptions to the insurance mandate for electricians. It retains the apprenticeship credits for master and journey person electricians, and retains the memoranda of understanding that's required to be submitted in 2023.
Are people clear on that, Senator? Oh, sorry,
Yeah, let me
please.
try to explain. And maybe it went over my head, or maybe it really wasn't addressed at the hearing. But there are multiple parts of this bill. One was to protect the journeyman and allow for electrical license on the shelf to be retained. And then it got into this about when they need to have insurance and when not, and with a contractor. And I have to tell you, it confused the hell out of me. And I thought it was getting into an area that we really didn't spend much time on. So I talked to the senator, and hopefully we got this right. We trimmed it back a little bit to what I thought were the main essence of really what was primary to him. If the employer has insurance, that's one thing, but the contractor, subcontractor, and a certain employee might not have to have insurance, and I thought it got into consumer situations, so I tried to craft with committee counsel something that retained the main part of this bill, and we just punted on changing the insurance responsibility. So that's, as I understand it, lights go out. Right, exactly. And so, in my understanding, that's what I tried to do with this amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Alexis, thank you for your hours of work on this. It's got a history, and, this bill is meant to clean up any unintended consequences from last year's bill. My question just on the insurance is just to understand, is it maintaining the posture of the bill that we passed last year, or does it change what we did last year on insurance?
So it maintains the posture of last year.
And that would be, if your employer has insurance, you as a working electrician don't?
So that's, if you are a practicing electrician, you have to have insurance regardless. You have to maintain it for yourself. There isn't a carve out.
No matter if you work for an employer or a
Right.
subcontract, so every individual electrician is required to have individual insurance.
Right, that's correct.
That's what was in the,
Yep, SB 762.
okay.
Yep.
And so as we went to try to make these other unintended consequences on the whole thing about, allowing these electricians who should be kind of grandfathered in the course of that work is when these other issues of insurance came up.
Right.
And then we were going down a different road.
Sure.
So now what we're saying is we're taking the insurance requirement back to what was passed in the original bill last year, which means every master electrician is required to have
Insurance.
insurance.
Yep, that's correct.
And are there, and I guess other levels that are not required then?
So the apprentice and the journey electricians, they are under the supervision of others. So where the code reads, it's practicing electricians, and the way it's practiced, my understanding is that the apprentice and the journey persons have to have it as well, but that one isn't as clear in the code. So I'm just gonna say master electricians have to have it.
Master electricians are required, and that's what we passed last year.
Right, right.
Statements, thoughts? Mr. Chairman, you want to move your amendment?
Sure.
Okay, is there a second for the chairman's amendment? Senator Riley, Senator Patterson, everybody wants to second the chairman's amendment. So there are two amendments to the bill. Are there any questions, debate, conversation about the McCray electricians bill with two amendments? I see none. So does anyone want to be recorded against this bill? Seeing none, it goes to the floor, 11-0, with two amendments.
Madam Chair, on the next bill, I would ask that we hold it. We have a bill covering some of the same material coming up and being heard tomorrow. So I want it to be on a medium fast track, but I think we need to wait and have the hearing on a comparable bill tomorrow. So let's put 608 on a hold. Keep going.
Next bill is Senate Bill 696, Senator Bidle. Alexis.
So SB 696, Maryland Loan Assistance Repayment for Nurses and Nursing Workers Program Establishment and Funding. This bill establishes a loan repayment program for nurses and nursing workers and an accompanying fund for the repayment of loans for nurses and nursing workers who practice primary care within state and local government or a nonprofit, or who practice in an area of a staff shortage. The bill outlines funding requirements. Under the bill, if there is not a $400,000 mandatory appropriation from the governor, the comptroller is required to use Board of Nursing fees to fund the program in fiscal years 2023 through fiscal year 2025. And in fiscal year 2026, the funding will come from the Board of Nursing fees if there is not a permanent structure, source of support for the program. The bill requires the Department of Health to report each year on the individuals who applied and who participated in the program. The bill also requires a work group within the department that will study nursing debt, nursing retention, recruitment, and sources of funding, and the work group is required to submit an interim report and a final report, the final report being the body of work that will identify the permanent fee structure. There are two amendments. There is an amendment from Senator Hester to be added as a co-sponsor, and there's an amendment from Senator Pinsky that makes technical changes upon request from Budget and Tax. that kind of deal with issues that they'll see when they're secondary, but it makes clear that this $400,000 appropriation is the amount that the comptroller has to fund in the event the governor does not fund 400,000, does not exceed 400,000, because that wasn't clear in drafting. And I can provide an example if necessary, but I don't want to.
There a motion, I think Senator Hester is going to move Senate Bill 696. Is there a second? Senator Ellis. And then there is an amendment to add Senator Hester as a co-sponsor. Senator Hester proposes that. Senator Ellis will second that as well. Any objection to adding Senator Hester as a co-sponsor? Anyone else want to be added as a co-sponsor? Seeing none, she is added as a co-sponsor. Then there's a clarifying amendment. And did you say what page that was on? Do we need to read this? Are we good?
So that is not included in the packet. It should be in the stack of papers I passed out beside the packet, and the number is SB 696-863-0231.
And we know this got handed out. It's just not in front of, on my desk. Do others have it?
Sorry, I'm looking right at it, which means I didn't hand it out. Give me 1
Okay.
second.
Just in case anybody wants to be reading it. Thank you, Stacy. In this committee, we have lawyers doing paper distribution. It's awesome. Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, this looks like a clarifying amendment by the chairman. Can we have a motion on this? Does anyone have any question about this amendment, the Pinsky amendment? I see no questions. Can we move it and have it before us? Moved by the chair, seconded by Senator Lamb. Any objections to the amendment? Seeing none, we now have two amendments on Senate Bill 696. Are there any other amendments? Any further debate? Yes, Senator Ellis.
Just a question of clarification. So this bill establishes the Maryland Loan Assistance Repayment Program for nurses and nursing workers. Okay, and so last week, we took a bill to the floor that amended the MLARP to allow for part-time. Oh, that was for physicians, and so this is nurses, okay. So I'm catching up, thank you.
Good.
I knew it was medical.
Good question.
Okay.
No, it's important.
Thank you.
Is everybody else good? Are we ready to go? Any objections to this bill? Seeing none, it'll go to the floor unanimously, 11-0, with two amendments. Next bill, sponsor problem, Senate Bill 713.
Okay.
Our wonderful friend Senator Riley.
Before we get to Senate Bill 713, can we go back to 569, alcoholic beverages, Class 4 limited winery licenses?
Yep.
So have been conversing with folks in DLS, and alcohol bills actually are allowed to have pre-June 1st effective dates without being emergency measures.
Okay.
So
do you want to put it back on the,
unless you really want it to be an emergency measure, we can strip that out and it
Okay.
can go and have affected.
so does it, any objections to revisiting the vote by which we passed and approved Senate Bill 569? We're going to amend it back to the original posture so that it has an April 15th effective date rather than emergency bill. And seeing no objection to that,
So
the
the motion
goes
will be
back.
a straight favorable.
Yep. All right, thank you, April.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Definitely not a thing. It's apparently because they're not subject to referendum, and so they're under a different part of the state constitution. I don't know.
I think the alcoholic beverage chair needs to have that in his back pocket here. All right.
All right.
Let's go back to Senate Bill 713, Senator Riley.
713, Anne Arundel County Natural Resources Fishing Gear. This bill establishes that provisions that only allow fishing with a rod or hook and line in specified waters of Anne Arundel County, mentioned in current law, apply only to a person commercially harvesting finfish. The bill also authorizes commercial harvesting of finfish with archery equipment in those waters.
Okay, Senator Riley, Senator Simon Ayer.
Mr. Chair, we did discuss whether or not we wanted to insert the name northern fish head somewhere to be very specific about what could be harvested. I have no objection to that if you think I should pursue that.
This was bow and arrow after, to all
Yeah,
the eagle.
bow and arrow. And the young lady from Broadneck High
Yeah.
School was concerned that it could be used
Yeah.
for other types of species.
Has that amendment been drafted, or is
No,
it simple
no.
enough that we
No, I-
can discuss it?
I think it's simple enough,
Okay?
but I
April,
wanted
are
to,
you
I
okay
wanted to
with
get the chairman's view.
that? Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Do you object, I mean, narrowing it down? Yeah, I would like it to be specific, and the snakeheads are bad,
Yeah,
they're bad dudes.
right.
name is northern snake.
okay. Northern
Kill
snake.
the SOB.
That's right.
They've caused trouble in our, they cause trouble. Apparently, they can walk, these fish.
Yeah, that's what he
And
said.
I'm not sure if they're in the Crofton Pond or not, Senator, but,
The fact that they can lay 70-something thousand eggs in a year was mind-blowing to me.
pretty prolific.
Yeah. Senator Riley.
They don't have legs, but they have a very strong dorsal
Dorsal
fin
fin.
underneath,
I
and they can
remember.
stay out of water for 5-10 minutes. And the MDE came in and poisoned that pond, but there's the thought that the fish got out anyway into the Patuxent. They're in the Potomac now, they're everywhere. So if I could ask the staff to put an appropriate comment, definition.
Yeah, so I think the way to do it, because it's a little complicated to just put northern commercially harvesting, it just doesn't work.
April, may I suggest, should we hold the bill for tomorrow and make sure then we have something in
can do
front of
that,
us and do it
yeah.
right? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, it's doable, it's just gonna be a little
It's not an
different.
on-the-fly
It's not
thing.
just a write in a word.
Okay, all right, hold for tomorrow. And can we just, on the record, during live stream, just say that that was a young high school girl who came up with that and talk about making a difference? And she was the only one who came in and said that, so that's cool. Senate Bill 717, Senator Simonaire, Senator Rosapap, virtual education.
Senate Bill
dates.
717, Public Schools Virtual Education Days Authorization. This bill allows a local board of education to authorize the local superintendent in cases of severe weather conditions to provide virtual education days to students instead of closing public school in the county during a severe weather event. Authorization must be preceded by a discussion at an open board meeting and an affirmative board vote. The superintendent may decide to provide a virtual education day under specified conditions and must notify the school principals as soon as possible after the decision. A school principal receiving notice must notify the students' parents and school staff of implementation of the virtual education day. There are two amendments in your packet. The first amendment is on page 78, offered by the sponsor, Senator Simonaire. And this makes a minor correction as to who develops the plan for the virtual education day. The second amendment, also offered by Senator Simonaire, is on page 79 of the packet. This requires the county board to publish its plan for virtual education days on the website. It provides for required components of the virtual education day plan and requires not less than 4 hours of synchronous learning on a virtual education day.
Okay, so let's get the bill before us if we could. Senate Bill 717, Senator Simonaire, you want to move your bill? Okay, is there a second? Senator Washington? Okay. Let's get the amendments before us. The first one, 813726/1 on page 78. Is there a motion on that amendment that says county board that authorizes A and strikes to provide a virtual education day? Technical. Senator Simonaire moves, Senator Riley seconds. Any objection to that amendment? Seeing none, that amendment is adopted. We have another amendment that Ms. Goodman just described on page 79 and 80. Anyone have any questions about that amendment? Can we get that in front of us? Senator Washington, is your question on the amendment or the bill? It's on the amendment. Okay, on this amendment now. Okay, so let's get that amendment before us, because it's in this amendment. So Senator Gallion on this amendment, yes? Can I have a motion? So Senator Gallion moves the amendment. No. Senator Patterson, you are the lucky seconder on this amendment. So now this amendment is before us, and Senator Washington has a question.
Yes, About, I've been thinking about this. Why did you choose 4 hours? Just
Senator, that's directed to the sponsor.
Yes, sorry,
Yeah.
it's to the.
Senator Simoner?
Yeah, I mean, currently, I think there's like 16 schools currently doing this.
Yeah.
MSDE approves of it, and they wanted the procedures that they had in place to be
Okay.
done at the local level.
Great, okay. So 4 hours is considered so is it synchronous? Okay, so 4 hours of synchronous instruction, okay. At least, okay, thank you.
Yep, okay. Senator Washington, you good? Yep. Okay. Any other questions about the amendment? Yes, Senator
Well, okay.
Ellis.
I have a question about the bill, so in
Okay,
general, should I
should we
wait?
let's get the amendment done first, if that's okay, or do you want to? Okay, let's move the amendment if we could. It's been moved and seconded. Any objections to the Simoner amendment? Seeing none, that is adopted. Questions on the bill, which is now before us with 2 amendments. Senator Ellis first, followed by Senator Gallion.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So the concept of virtual education days, could you tell me what that is? And the purpose for it, and when will those days be used?
Yeah, please.
So basically, the way the bill's set up, each local jurisdiction builds in a number of basically snow days into their calendar. After they've used all those days, then this bill would go into effect that they could use a virtual day instead of closing down school, which would push them further into summer. And currently, there's already 16 counties that do it, but they have to get approval at the state level. This is to get the approval just at the county level, so they don't have to go back every year.
So this will get the approval at the county level? What do you mean by
Right.
that?
It
This
has to
bill-
go through a process so that the superintendent has the authority to authorize a virtual day after all the snow days have been up.
Right.
So this bill will authorize the counties to make that
Right.
decision?
They're
without
already
going to
doing it
state?
at the state level.
Yeah.
So say Montgomery County and others have requested it for this year. They approved it, had these procedures. The locals would like to have that controlled down at the local level instead of having to go back every year to the state.
Okay, great. Thank you, Senator.
I have a question. Senator Gallion, sorry, you're first.
So you mentioned like the inclement weather days. Could a county, under this, if they wanted to, not have to worry about any snow days when they set their calendar? They could do these immediately. So instead of having 3 or 4, however many snow days, could they just do this? It would help the schools kind of set their calendar. Is that allowed in this?
It's permissible. They would have to have a public hearing, get the input from the people. I think they would get some pushback from that because people like to have a couple snow days a year. But I'm just
I don't
saying.
know. I always like to get done. You know, get the-
That would be
have it.
something they would have to vote on.
And then one other thing, it would fall, I had a similar bill 2 years ago, and it's very unusual I request this, but I would like to be added as a co-sponsor under amendment if.
Any
if
objection
you're
to
all right
adding
with that.
Senator Gallion as the co-sponsor? Seeing none, you are added. I actually was thinking exactly the same, along the same lines as Senator Gallion. Senator Simoner, on page 2, lines 10 through 12, it says you can have a virtual education day only if the local school system has used all the days incorporated into its calendar for school closures for severe weather conditions. And I just wonder whether a little bit of flexibility might make sense.
The counties that I talked to wanted that provision in there. So, I mean, it's our bill, but, I mean, that's how they requested it.
So the problem in the past is, we're out of snow days, and now that means, spring break is going to be shorter, or the December break is going to be shorter, and all that. So this obviously helps serve a purpose, so that once you set the calendar, as Senator Gallion said, then that gives some options. But it also seems to me that for the interest of learning, or in the middle of finals, or in the middle of something, that maybe it makes more sense to do a virtual day on a random day of the week, and then take the snow day the following day or something.
If you take that out of there, it gives the locals more control.
That's what I
And so, I mean, I'm agnostic on that, but
kind of like. Senator, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I was actually going in the other direction.
Oh, funny.
I would almost like, I like the concept of after you use your days. But as the senator raised, if you don't put any days in your calendar, kids don't get a snow day. And maybe I'm a sentimental at heart. I think having a snow day occasionally is a good thing.
Yeah.
And just part of me that would like to require them to have at least one day built in the calendar for severe weather conditions.
Right.
I have no problem with that. I can tell you, though, the comments I've gotten back on this bill, they like the bill, but the parents are saying, we want some snow days built in, so I think you would have a hard time getting through the public hearing process where they voted on it to say, we're going to have 0 calendar days, but I have no problem with you if you want to put a minimum in there.
So if there's a snowmageddon again, and we're at school on Monday, and there's an enormous blizzard coming in, and so they say, let's have a virtual day on Tuesday, but then it's still snowmageddon. So there's a snow day on Wednesday and on Thursday. I mean, there's not enough time for advance notice.
If I could,
Yeah.
I think if it's after the days, it's more predictable when it's going to happen. In other words, picking it in the middle of a long storm, I think if you've gone through your days, people will know the next day is going to be a virtual school day. So you can prepare accordingly rather than having it mixing and matching. But I still am thinking about what Senator Gallion said about a school system not, and I think it would be surprising. I don't know how many school systems don't build in any days at all. Do you know, Stacy?
My head, but I'm pretty assuming that's none, because everybody has severe weather. It's not just snow, it's severe
Right.
weather. We've had hurricanes and other such issues, so.
Yeah, I'm fine with the bill as it is.
Okay. So any other debate, conversation? Seeing none, Senate Bill 717 is before us as amended. Does anyone want to be recorded against it? Then it goes 10 to 0 to 1 with Senator Hester briefly away.
And Senator Gallion's name added as an amendment.
Yes. Senator Gallion is a co-sponsor. Next bill is Senate Bill 802.
Senate Bill 802, Maryland Consortium on Coordinated Community Supports, Membership and Coordinated Community Supports Partnership Fund, revisions. This bill increases from 2 to 4 the number of additional staff that must be added to the Maryland Community Health Resources Commission to staff the Maryland Consortium on Coordinated Community Supports. 2 additional members are added to the consortium. Appointed members of the consortium serve for 4-year terms beginning on the date of appointment and are limited to no more than 2 consecutive terms. A memorandum of understanding must be entered into by the consortium, the commission, and the National Center for School Mental Health regarding provision of technical assistance to the consortium and the commission. Responsibility for administering the Coordinated Community Supports Partnership Fund is transferred from the Maryland State Department of Education to the Commission. The bill also clarifies that grants from the fund are provided by the Commission and that the state funding provided under the fund is supplemental to funding that would otherwise be appropriated to the Maryland Community Health Resources Commission fund in the state budget. That's a long-winded way of saying there's a lot of technical stuff in there. There are 2 amendments, starting on page 81 of your packet. They look long, but essentially what this does is it redrafts the membership provisions in the law to provide that only non-departmental heads or designees are subject to the term limits, and then it staggers these non-departmental heads or designees. So instead of 5 members' terms will terminate in 2024, 5 members' terms will terminate in 2025, and 6-member terms will terminate in 2026. This way, not everybody's leaving all at the same time. This alters the amounts of appropriations for the fund for fiscal years 24, 25, and 26 for the purpose of spreading out the $25 million that was supposed to be appropriated to the fund in 2022, but wasn't. It delays submission for the initial report of the consortium until December 1, 2022, from July 1, 2022, because they haven't all been appointed and they haven't done anything yet. And it changes the effective date from October 1 to July 1. And that amendment is from the sponsor, Senator Gazzone. There's a second amendment in your packet that begins on page 84. Though it's not in there, Senator Hester requests to be a co-sponsor, and her amendment would add one member each from the Senate and the House as membership on the consortium.
For us, Senate Bill 802, and the amendments that Stacy described begin on page 81. So Senate Bill 802, is there a motion on Senate Bill 802? Senator Ellis, thank you. Is there a second? Senator Washington seconds. And now we've got a couple of amendments. The first one from the sponsor, moving the effective date from October to July. Any objections? That amendment is adopted. Then we have a Hester amendment adding two legislators, one from the House and one from the Senate. Any objections to that? I actually have a question, and I'm shocked that Senator Simonera isn't asking that. With one delegate and one senator appointed by the majority party, I just wonder whether there would be a minority voice in this body and whether you care. Okay, depends on who they appoint. So we are trusting the presiding officers, the Hester amendment on to Senate Bill 802. Okay. Any objections to that amendment? Seeing none, that is adopted. The bill is now before us. Are there any other amendments or any questions, any debate? Seeing none, Senate Bill 802 goes to the floor with two amendments. Back to the chairman.
Okay. In the far turn. Let's go to 841.
Senate Bill 841, Morgan State University, Carnegie classification, doctoral university with very high research activity. This bill requires Morgan State University to develop and implement a plan to enhance MSU such that the university is designated as a doctoral university with very high research activity as identified by the Carnegie classification of institutions of higher education. MSU's mission is expanded to include other urban communities in the state beyond Baltimore City. In addition to current priorities, MSU must be dedicated to, 1, sustained annual research expenditures of $50 million to $75 million, and 2, research to address issues that disproportionately impact communities of color. This is not an stated appropriation. This is money that they have to designate to whatever the priorities are.
Okay, is there a motion to put it before us? It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Senator Washington.
Thank you, colleagues. I was hoping that you would allow me to be amended onto this bill. The Morgan State University is in my district, so I just would like to be on there with Senator Ferguson.
So moved.
Thank you.
No objection. The good senator from Baltimore is added. The bill is amended. Discussion. Discussion, seeing none. Anybody like to be recorded in the negative against the bill from Senator Ferguson and Senator Washington? Just saying. Okay, we'll record that as a 10-0-1 and go to the floor. Yes.
Got a note from Senator Eckert. Senate Bill 855 is being heard, the cross file is being heard in the House Friday. The expect amendment, she was requesting that we could hold this until the House did their work.
No, it's late. That's, I know there are numbers of people who aren't happy with this bill. So whether we want to wait and then possibly dispose of it or dispose of it now and save the House time. Okay.
Move unfavorable. Second.
I'm going to come back. No. We're going to, there's an unfavorable, and there's a second to the unfavorable. Now we are going to hear from the good senator that the sponsor has asked for a hold because the House is working on it. And if the committee, if this bill is in play, then we should hold it. But if it's going down to the deep, then I don't think it matters if we hold it.
And Mr. Chairman, I know nothing about the substance of the bill, just relaying the message. I'm the messenger. Don't slay the
Okay.
messenger.
Well, let's start the discussion from one of the makers of the motion, why they moved the unfavorable.
Last year, it's a, I'm sorry, I don't think it's in the best interest of consumers paying for a job, even if it's being financed, paying for a job well in advance. It still does not leave any recourse. So that's why I moved unfavorable. However, I'm not opposed to withdrawing that just in consideration of the bill sponsor. But
Senator Washington described it well. I think it's a bad anti-consumer protection bill that is surely well-intended by the good senator, but I think we should dispatch with it and save the House a little bit of time.
I think it's a good consumer bill. So hear me out. I did talk to the bill sponsor. She said that the Attorney General's office has removed their concern pending the amendment. And I think, like, if you go to buy a car, you finance the whole car at one sitting. You don't have to go back 3 times. And so when I talked to the bill sponsor, I said, if you're working with somebody who's got a financing mechanism as legitimate as a car company, then why couldn't you finance your whole kitchen at the same time? And so that was the way I took the bill. And obviously, I was concerned about the Attorney General's office also. But if they've changed something that makes them feel like they're not opposed to it anymore, I say we give the bill a chance.
Thank you, not the sponsor.
The sponsor of the unfavorable.
Yeah, or the second, yeah. So Senator Hester, if I go and buy a car, I either finance it or pay for it, and I leave with the whole car. I don't leave with just the stick shift and the steering wheel. I leave with the whole car. When I hire someone to renovate my kitchen or my deck, they have to get the materials, so I'm going to give them a down payment to help buy the materials. Then they're going to come and do the job, and I need to make sure that they're doing a good job. And so I need some accountability, some financial accountability, that they don't do it, halfway or sloppily or whatever. And so that's the reason that traditionally we've done a third. It's the only consumer protection to make sure that we get what we're paying for. It's not the same as buying a product. Buying a service is different, in my opinion.
I've financed a number of home improvement projects. Just recently, we put in a basement. I got some good 0% finance. I financed the whole thing, but I only gave the contractor a third of it, and then I gave him another third. So you can still finance. You can still have the opportunity to finance an entire project. This is about, paying the contractor.
I would just be really curious to hear what the amendment is and what the AG has to say. I'm not the sponsor of the bill. I just would like to know how it shook out in the House.
Thank you. I know we're going through a lot of bills, so I tried to go back and look at the hearing file. And, given that during the hearing, we talked about supply chain issues that are affecting some of these small businesses, the legislation seemed reasonable to me, and now I'm hearing that some issues are possibly being worked out even more so to address other concerns. So I believe it would be only a courtesy to see what this amendment is and understand, the lifting of the AG's objections. So I certainly would want to give our colleague that courtesy, and I'm interested to see if we can come to something that might help some of these small business operators.
Look, I think it's a terrible bill, if you want to know what I really think. Look, normally, you put a third and then midway a third and then a final third, so you can hold back money to make sure it gets done, so it doesn't go from 3 months to 3 years. And I agree with exactly Senator Washington. Look, some projects drag a long time, but most projects 2 to 4 months is going to get done. You get your loan. It's not going to be shorter than 4 months for the loan, so you hold back money. And I just think, if you write a check for the whole thing up front, I think you're an idiot. I have to say that. And I don't know what the amendment can do to improve this. And as much as, I'm a big admirer of the Attorney General, that they move their objection doesn't mean a whole lot to me, because I just see this as a consumer. Look, the retailers want it. Yeah, what a shock. Home Depot wants it. Who's speaking for the consumers, I guess is the question. And we've had bills before of making it more difficult, making it easier to collect when there's fraud. So I'm just not inclined. Again, I don't know if there's a big rush, so I'm open to being convinced otherwise, but I'd be shocked if my vote changes on this. Senator Seminary, we haven't heard from, then we'll go back to Senator Washington.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I haven't dove into this bill, but I can tell you I've done several building projects, and if you pay it all up front, you don't see them for a while. But if they want the money, that's when you get them back. So I don't know what the advantage, I can see it from a business side, but from a consumer point, you give them that money and it's really hard because they're making money on another project, and if you don't have any new money coming into it, they'll get to you when they can. But if you have a paycheck sitting there for them, it's amazing how they come back. So, unless somebody else can convince me also. But the amazing thing is, we only saw one unfavorable in this. So people didn't come in and oppose it, so that's the challenge.
Okay, let's see a roll call vote. The vote's on unfavorable.
Bear with me. All right, Senator Kagan?
Aye on the unfavorable to kill the bill. Be totally clear.
Senator Kagan, no.
Yes.
So, yes, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes,
I
so it's
apologize.
unfavorable.
Senator Kagan, yes, on the unfavorable. Senator Lamb, oh, one moment.
Lights went out on this bill.
Evelina, you do the next one.
Okay. Senator Lamb? Yes. Senator Lamb, yes. Senator Hester?
I'm abstaining out of principle that I would have preferred to hold.
Senator Ellis? Yes. Senator Ellis, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Carrozza? No. Senator Carrozza, no. Senator Washington? Yes. Senator Washington, yes. Senator Riley? No. Senator Riley, no. Senator Patterson? Yes. Senator Patterson, yes. Senator Simonaire?
No, because I'd like to see the amendments.
Senator Simonaire, no. And Senator Penske?
Yes.
641.
The bill is dead.
That's Senator.
For the unfavorable, 6 in favor, 4 against, and 1 abstention. Next, I believe, is a hold. We're waiting on an amendment. Is that correct, Senator Washington? Yes. Okay, 870 is a hold. amendment should be coming forth with. 876.
Senate Bill 876, Water Pollution Civil Penalty Surcharge Oyster Repletion Fund. This bill requires that a surcharge be collected on existing civil penalties for water pollution violations. The surcharge revenues must be deposited in an oyster repletion fund, which is established by the bill and used for specified oyster repletion projects, specifically those in the public fishery. There is an amendment in your packet on page 85 from the bill sponsor, Senator Bailey. The amendment applies the bill to administrative as well as to civil penalties.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I would assume you want to move the sponsor's amendments?
Second.
Okay, I just want to raise a question or a point, and I don't know if I'm not agnostic on this or what, but it's my understanding this will allow people who are affected to sue. No?
You're thinking of the other bill. He had a similar bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then help me on.
Yeah, so because he had two different bills. One was specifically about wastewater overflows, and that one would allow a shellfish harvester who was affected because the Department of the Environment had to close a shellfish harvest area due to a sewer overflow. That would allow them to bring some sort of claim and have the MDE get them reimbursed. This one is a little different. This one would, it gets at a similar issue, but it says that in addition to civil and administrative penalties for violations of just wastewater discharge violations, that the violator would have to, would be assessed an additional surcharge on that violation of up to 25%. Which would then go to the special fund that would be used for oyster restoration in the public fishery. The one thing I would point out, just in terms of understanding the implications of this bill, is that the fiscal note sort of points, indicates that it's unlikely, because a lot of these violations are determined through settlement. So ultimately, what this bill may mean, rather than actually creating sort of new funds, is that instead of funds going to some portion of funds would be diverted from the existing, whatever the water quality fund within the Department of the Environment would be diverted to this oyster restoration fund.
Okay. The motion before you is the bill is amended. Further discussion?
This penalty go towards, say, sewage disposal plants and their discharge of, I guess, raw sewage. And so most of those are run by county government, city council. So this bill would have the state collecting money from the counties to put in this fund. Is that how it would work?
And because the bill hearings were on the same day and had the same witnesses and were very similar, that's more the other bill.
Oh, the
'Cause
bill.
that one was just about wastewater. This is any water pollution violation, so it could be a private company, that any violation, water pollution violation, where the department is already assessing either a civil or, under the amendments, administrative penalty. This would apply that surcharge to that. So private industry, government, whomever.
Yeah. I'm just concerned about the effect on county taxpayers, right? Because that's who will eventually bear all these costs. And so that'll be like an additional tax, possibly. It's kind of like a circular thing.
Senator,
So.
you raise an important question. I mean, the people who violate, whether it's public government or private, should they be assessed to make sure they don't do it again? But at the same token, it's going to cost more county tax money to pay into this fund.
So do they need that deterrent, I mean, to upgrade their plan? Because most of these discharges happen after we have heavy rains come in and overflow the system. And so it's something that our sewage system is not engineered to handle, because sewage and overflow goes into the same system. So, I mean, you have periods of heavy rain, hurricanes. I mean, it's kind of a burden. That'll be a big burden on municipalities and therefore the taxpayers.
They would be captured by this, not solely.
Not solely, but
Right.
just a little focus.
It's a judgment, it's a policy question.
Yeah.
I can come back to Senator Carozza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate council, reminding us that we had two similar bills to try to keep them straight. So I went back and looked at the hearing testimony. As I understand it, this is really just another tool to go after the bad actors, which we've talked about that. And then with the money going, any of these additional funds going to the oyster repletion fund. And I know from my district, I have numerous members of the Maryland Coastal Bays that are in support of this, and I'd actually wanted to offer an amendment to see if I could be a co-sponsor.
Yes, Senator, again, I'm not sure if all the people who are guilty of this are all bad actors. I mean, I think that's an open question, but I don't know.
There's a Carozza amendment to be add her as a co-sponsor. Any objection to that? Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I call for roll call, and if it passes,
Definitely on the amendment.
Look, let's adopt the amendment. If it dies, it dies, and, okay. We've added Senator Carozza. We've added did we add Bailey's amendment? I think we did. Okay, any objection to Bailey's amendment? Okay, that's adopted. Okay, on the bill, it's got, well, my view, plus and minuses. Call the roll.
Senator Kagan?
There. Pass. I never do that. I said pass.
Okay. Senator
No, I
Kagan?
didn't say abstain. Pass. I don't know, do we pass?
We have not passed in the past.
All right, all right. Kagan votes aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Lamb? No. Senator Lamb, no. Senator Hester? Senator Hester, yes. Senator Ellis? Senator Ellis, no. Senator Gallion? Yes. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Carozza?
Yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Washington? No. Senator Washington, no. Senator Riley?
yes.
Senator Riley, yes. Senator Patterson? No. Senator Patterson, no. Senator Salmonere? Senator Salmonere, yes, and Senator Pinsky.
Yeah, in explaining my vote, I just looked at the file. You know, Mako and MML didn't submit any testimony. That it goes to Oyster Replenishment Fund, I have no problem with. We need that. Look, I don't want to harm the counties, and if we find out it's harming the counties, I would come back and try to correct it, Senator. So I hear the arguments, and there's part of me that pulls that not trying to negatively affect the counties who run wastewater, but it's beyond wastewater, I think, there are a lot of other issues. So I'm going to vote yes. Yeah.
7-4.
The bill passes 7-4. Last one of the day.
Senate Bill 900, Cecil County fishing restrictions. This bill establishes the provisions that give a riparian property owner or occupant first choice to set or position a net or haul seine to catch fish for commercial use in front of the property do not apply to Cecil County. Bill modifies a prohibition against setting a pound net or stake net in the waters of the Susquehanna River so that it prohibits placing nets or establishing a haul seine fishery to catch fish for commercial use in those waters. Bill also repeals specified fishing restrictions in Cecil County. There is an amendment in your voting packet. This is on page 87. It strikes the language about establishing a haul seine fishery and narrows the prohibition on setting nets to catch fish for commercial purposes to pound nets only. We do have a local letter.
It's been moved and seconded. There were not amendments.
Amendments, yes.
There are amendments.
Any objection to adopting the amendments? Amendments are adopted. The bill as amended is before us. Anybody choose to vote in opposition? Seeing no lights or hands, the bill passes 11-0 and will go to the floor in that posture. Okay. Great work, committee. Great work. Great work. No.